right. Well, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. And as always, I'm John McDevitt, and with me is senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. But you will notice there are 4 boxes on the screen tonight. We have some guests. We have the guys, Craig and Chris from New York Giants Rush. We've been guests on their show. It was time that they come on our show. Gentlemen, welcome aboard. And we got some fun tonight. So first off, give a shout out to everybody. Let everybody know first where they can find all your stuff. And then thank you for coming on.
Well, we're drinking. That's all I know. Somehow John reached out and says, "Will you come on if we're drinking?"
That's it. Thanks for having us, guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We're here.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you having us. nygiantsrush.com. That's where all the interviews are, the YouTube channel, Twitter. Everything's NY Giants Rush to some degree. You can find us somewhere. We are live Mondays, every Monday, 8 o'clock. Got a rotating staff of guys. And we like to say that, we tell you what the players tell us because we're known for our interviews. We're not as good looking as you guys are, but we do try to be in the mix, with most of the Giants content out there. We're just slugging it along like you guys.
That's right.
Excellent.
And it sounds like you did a tip of the hat to them with the heavy metal intro there, John.
That was great.
Yeah,
that was great.
I like the fact that it's music. It's a band that didn't really go anywhere, but I managed them a number of years ago, and so I still have all the music to it. And I was like, I'm gonna start using it. So
and what's the band, John? Plug the band.
The band they don't even exist anymore, but the band was called Godfrey back in Vermont, back in the late 90s. So that's how far back this goes. But anyway.
Well, the first time we were on their show, their heavy metal intro got me so pumped up. I was like, all right, let's go.
John, when you say that, Chris Godfrey, the lineman, that's what comes to mind.
Right, there you go. God, I should have put those two things together. That's right. Well, so we're going to do a little fun tonight. I called this Pour 4. We're going to do 4 subjects. We might delve into another one depending on how long you guys stay on, how long we want to go, and how well it's going. I think it's going to go well. We'll pour out each one. We took topics ahead of time, so you guys all know the topics, but only I know the order. And just for shits and giggles, why don't we just start with all right, so roster depth, and I think we'll go around the room kind of one at a time, just kind of overall thoughts on the depth, and then we'll break into specific parts of like where we think there's some questions, where we think there's positives, and maybe we have different opinions on that. So why don't we start off, and I'll start it. Chris, why don't we start with you? What's your thoughts right now on the overall depth of the roster?
I think
pour it out, buddy. Pour it out.
I think I left my glass in the kitchen.
That's all right. It's all good.
Pour right in the mouth.
Are we all pouring?
I'm going to have to pretend the pork is already poured.
There you go. There you go.
That's great. But when you look at the roster, this could very well be the best roster the Giants have had in a number of years. And 2 things I look at with the roster going into the season. The first thing is when the Giants make cuts, how many of their own guys are going to clear and end up back on the practice squad? And then the other thing is with the cuts, how many of these guys at the Giants, because of the numbers, are going to end up on the 53 of other teams? Because remember, they got to be added after that last cut to the active roster. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of these guys actually clear and end up on other teams' rosters. So that would give me a good indication of how well this roster is put together by guys landing on other teams that couldn't make the numbers with the Giants.
That's actually a good way to look at it.
So what do you go with you, Eric? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that's actually an excellent way to look at it. I hadn't thought of that recently, but we just cut a defensive lineman that got picked up by Buffalo already. The guy from Syracuse. I can't think of his name right now, but was already.
Was that Jordan Riley?
No.
Jordan Riley was from Oregon.
I'm looking let me look it up while I'm talking. Let me look it up real quick. But
wasn't DJ Davidson, was it?
No. It was the guy that was the lacrosse player. Let me get him real quick here. It shows you the drinking's already
right
in here. But a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, during the initial rebuild, we were picking up, I think we had like 6 UD waiver wire pickups. We picked up. So that's a great way to look at it when you're picking up. I'm looking through the cuts here. When you pick up guys like that, 6 guys, 5 guys, it shows you that your roster is not so good against the rest of the league. So when I look at this team right now, I think we're loaded on defense. So that's why, and I know we're going to talk about that probably in another segment, and there's going to be pressure on that defensive coordinator. But and it's not just me as a Giants fan. I've been watching a lot of guys on YouTube in the last couple of weeks that don't cover the Giants but cover the NFL, and they've all been saying, "Man, this Giants defense is scary good on paper." So I really like our defense. The areas that I'm a little bit concerned about still are offensive line. I think we've got bodies. I just don't know how good the bodies are, and I'm a little bit worried about Ty Banks. We'll probably get into that a little bit. He had a good day at practice, it sounds like, today. They were talking about how good he did at practice. Today was the first OTA practice. But I really like not just the starters, but I like the depth on defense. It's the offensive side at certain positions that scare me a little bit. So we'll see.
What about you, Craig?
Well, my first thing that comes to mind is I guess over the last 5 years, what's bothered me in great depth is the lack of competition. Guys were handed jobs, right? Shane Lemieux handed a job, right? Or anytime they have a new guard that they bring in, he's handed a job and very little competition. So I do find that the depth of this roster is vastly improved over the last 2 years, right? 2 positions, if you want to talk about the pros and cons, I think we have a lot more depth on the defensive line. I think we got a lot more depth in the secondary. I think there's definitely some of course, depth, of course, as we know, in the quarterback room. The offensive line and the wide receivers, to me, feels still where, you know what, I'm not really sure what we have yet, right? They may be better than average. They may be average, but at least there's bodies in the building. I felt like, through the Shermer Judge era, we would just bring in the minimum. We'd have 8 offensive linemen. You hoped it worked out. And then when someone got hurt, you were fishing somewhere else to fill the roster. I don't feel like that anymore. I feel there's a competition at center. I feel there's going to be a competition at right and left guard, right? I don't feel there's any competition at the wide receiver spot. And that kind of bothers me because as much as I've grown to like Wan'Dale Robinson, if he does get hurt, who slots in there for 75 catches a season, right? So I think there is some thin spots, but more improved than it's been in the past.
Interesting. And I actually have a different take on it. I do like the depth overall. I actually think the offensive line is a little bit deeper than we think. The questions are there to a degree, but they're really, could someone slide in and start? But we have 5 starters if we want to, and they're the same 5 that we started last year with. So those guys can, and they were a cohesive unit. They're not necessarily the best in the NFL, but we know that cohesion and the ability to play with each other is a lot more important in the NFL than we just got really good guys. If they don't play well together, it doesn't matter how good they are. I think we have cohesion. I think Evan Neal is a wild card. If he somehow works his way into even if he's just the first guy off the bench at guard because he's improved that much that we think he could be, that's huge. If he moves into a starting spot, that becomes a very big deal, especially what we saw today with him being on the left side of the line. If you put him and Thomas next to each other, we have road grading possibility in the run game on that side. I think wide receiver, I actually like we do have competition, but the competition is 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not overly concerned about the depth for Wan'Dale because I think you mix in other guys. I'm not so sure what we have with Russell Wilson for the over the middle, the short over the middle. We have to the flats and to the deep with Russell Wilson. So that is where I think we might have more strength at wide receiver. What concerns me on depth wise is we did a review of yesterday of tight end. It could be very good or it could be very sparse. It really depends on what happens in training camp. If Johnson's healthy, great. If depending on who's going to be the backup, if Bellinger makes the team, Manhurts we think is going to make the team because he's kind of Daboll's guy. He's that designated blocker guy. But there's not beyond Johnson. Everything else is a question mark in terms of who we're going to use in a passing game. So I'm worried about that a little bit. Defensive line, I think we finally have some depth, and we'll cover defense in more depth in another segment. But I think depth-wise overall, I feel pretty good, and the quarterback room is the one that I feel way better about.
John, is it possible that I could respond there on the tight end?
Of course you can. Absolutely.
All right.
We all love tight ends.
That's why we have you on.
Yeah, I know. Tight ends
I was going to agree with you anyway.
I object.
Yeah, tight ends have always been my jam. I don't know why. It's been like that for a long time. And here's an interesting way to look at the tight ends. Out of the gate, they don't throw to the tight end. Okay, just out of the gate for the past 5 years, they don't throw to the tight end. You're talking about at best, you're getting 4 targets a game. That's nothing. That's below the NFL average. Okay, so you shouldn't be concerned with the tight end because we don't throw to the tight end. Now, then you can go on and say, okay, Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson caught no balls in college. Okay, like he has the talent. Penn State didn't throw him the ball. Like, why do you think he slipped down the draft? Because they didn't throw him the ball. He has the talent, but he's a late bloomer when it comes to being a pass catcher. So you do have a long way to go for him to pop. Bellinger came in and was a house on fire the first 4 games and then got his eye socket broken.
Right.
Guy was tough enough to come back, and then they just shelved him. Chris and I, we've talked about this numerous times. We can't even really figure out why, right? Because he's got a little bit of yak in him for, after the catch. He doesn't drop any balls, but they don't throw him the football. And if you look at the size of the cat, it looks like they've turned him into the blocker. I don't see Manhurst making the team because I think Bellinger is now becoming that blocker. And, he can still leak out into a wheel route or still catching the flat, and Theo is supposed to be your in-space seam catching tight end, right?
Right.
But you don't got to sweat it because unless something that Kafka brings or something that, maybe Russ is like, man, we need to get the tight end involved.
Right.
If it's even close to what it's been the last 5 years, you don't have to sweat your tight end depth because they don't throw the ball at a tight end.
Yeah,
which,
but
by the way, is game.
Yeah, Craig, to your point, though, we have to understand that, Evan Neal has had problems the past few years at right tackle. And when he was injured, you're slipping guys in there like Azuto and other guys. And now the tight end's, primarily in there to help block. So,
right.
I mean, we've seen that so many times. That's really when the Bellinger slide kind of came, was with the struggles with Neal and then sliding other guys into that spot. So maybe, just maybe, with a solidified offensive line, we're going to see what we saw from that tight end position from 3 years ago. And Fedone, right, the rookie. I mean, he's a guy to keep an eye on. And you're going to figure a couple of these guys will slip through the cuts and end up on the practice squad.
Right.
So that's the other part.
And what's the other common denominator during the entire time that we haven't been thrown to the tight ends? We had a shitty quarterback.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, but I think we have bodies on the offensive line. I just don't know how good the bodies are. And so, man, if Neal, it's funny, he's going to be one of the most overanalyzed guys. I don't know if you guys saw this today, but the Giants released like 150 pictures from the OTAs today. And there's one picture of Evan Neal in his stance. And it's being overanalyzed to death. Look at him in his new stance. Bobby Skinner tweeted out something, and so everyone on the site right now is like, "What's new with the new stance?" So it's just the way he's lining up, guys. But that shows you the level of interest there is in him right now. And what's interesting is if this holds, if they're putting him on the left side, which was, I think he played left guard at Alabama for 1 year. It wasn't right guard; it was left guard,
right,
and then he played right tackle and then left tackle. If they keep him there behind Runyon, the best he's going to probably hope to be this year is second team, unless he's so good in camp they shift him over to the right side. But right now it looks like Kubas, who I think John, you're kind of high on.
I like Kubas. He brings it.
Yeah, looks like Kubas is ahead of him right now because Kubas was the second team right guard today behind Van Roten. And Neal was the second team left guard. But remember, Runyon wasn't practicing today. So Stinney was the starting left guard. So right now, if Runyon was playing, Neal would have been third string today, and Azudu was third string today. So those guys are on the bubble right now. Both Azudu and Neal are. I know it's early, but they're on the bubble.
Just keep in mind this is all going to change depending on what JMS does. No, I meant just purely from we're talking roster depth, right?
Right.
This is all. This whole line depends on what JMS does.
Right.
If JMS, am I allowed to swear on your show?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh fuck yeah. Although I will have to bleep some of it out if it gets too much.
All right. No. I wasn't gonna go off. I was just gonna say if JMS shits the bed, Van Roten moves over to center.
Right. Yes.
And all of a sudden, you start looking at a different lineup than than JMS and Neal potential, right? Just potential. If JMS doesn't do well, it doesn't matter what happens at that point because Van Roten becomes your center, right?
Right.
And then you're looking at Neal, having to start at guard or Kubas or Stinney, like giving him a run for it. But that's when you're like, if JMS doesn't do well, then you're basically saying, well, all right, let's give Neal baptism under fire at guard. Because if he doesn't do it, you're putting Stinney or Kubas in there, and John's right. Kubas played well last year, right? Yeah. But he's not, they didn't give all that, draft capital up to get him. So Neal's going to get the benefit of the doubt until he just proves he can't play.
Yeah.
And now, Chris, do we refer to him as the king? Well,
that's what he refers to himself as, the king. We have other names for him off air. Yeah, he's the king. He's the one that it's taken on the whole responsibility of Rush. So he is the king. He is the king.
The thing with Neal and his stance, though, what did people want? He's not. What do you just expect to see him standing up? I mean, the guy's got to get down. He's a big dude. He looked like any other guard getting down into a guard stance. I'm not really sure what people are. I feel like I saw something today. There was another thing. It was from a Cleveland Post, and they were like, Shedeur Sanders was just absolutely on fire today. He was 7 of 9. I'm like, in 7-on-7s playing. I mean, what the hell is this? Let's calm down. Even for us, like, calm down. Dart through a touchdown pass. That's great. Let's calm down. It is OTAs. It's not even training camp. Let's just dial it back.
That's right.
Dial it back. But so
wait, Chris was going to say something. I cut him off.
No, Eric. I was going to say, what Craig was saying, with training camp, I think Daboll alluded to it today. They're in the process of working out some joint practices, whatever teams that may be. Obviously, it may be a couple teams that are on the preseason schedule that week. But I'll tell you, that's going to be a microscopic look at the center position with Schmitz. And then some of these other guys, even a guy like Hudson who came over. So I think those joint practices where the ones will be against the ones and it gets pretty intense. I think that's going to be something to really target and take a look at on how Schmitz does.
Do you guys think they may still sign Gabe Davis? And if they do, that's got to be bad for Hyatt, right? I don't know if they're going to, but they brought him in. Remember, he failed that physical
with another team.
Before they waived him.
Jacksonville cut him.
Jacksonville. And he came in, and everyone assumed he was going to sign here right away. But there was that failed physical with the knee, torn meniscus, I think it was.
You know what it is, Eric? I think it could be almost like a short list, right? When you bring guys in on Tuesday, they work them out, they take their notes, and let's see how he comes, progress during training camp, and maybe they bring him back in if they have a spot. So I think maybe he's on a short list, just depending on
what I think, either that or they're waiting for the knee to get better, one or the other.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we got four segments. So,
don't mind me. I got to go get
in, though.
So, one thing though, you said just a minute ago, Eric. I think the Azudu part though. Let's not overdo OTAs, but Azudu being third string, that's a bad sign for Azudu. This is a guy that they were thrown in as the emergency left tackle when they needed to. Guard is more of his natural position, and if you're already chucking him way to the back, I think they kind of know what they got with Azudu. He's got a big hill to climb if he wants to make the team.
Well, Marcus Bowe is already the second team right tackle.
Yeah,
he's already second team right tackle. So this was his first practice, and they already put him there.
And he played some at guard too. They had him playing both today.
Today, I think he was just at right tackle.
I saw that he lined up at both.
Guard maybe tackle. He did. I didn't see that. So I just saw that. I saw the tweets from the two reporters saying where guys were lining up. But I did also see it was John Schmelk or somebody said they were moving guys around again. So maybe maybe you're correct. Maybe they were.
You brought up wide receiver real quick. I want to ask a question. What did you think of, since we're talking about depth and who might make team, might not make team? What did you think of the weird sort of timing now that Connor gets the article out that Hyatt clashed with the coaches, clashed with upper management? Where was all this in the middle of the season, which seemed obvious based on he wasn't playing, and he made some comments here or there that seemed like he was unhappy. But to come right out and say he had a clash with the coaches and with management, that really cut into his playing time. What are everybody's thoughts on that? Because to me, all I picture is Hyatt in that video leading in the draft where he's with the Cowboys wide receiver coach, where he kept kind of being like, what kind of wide receiver? And all Giant fans were like, yeah, you tell him because we drafted him. But now that's kind of playing out like he doesn't necessarily take criticism or coaching very well. Thoughts from everybody?
Well, my initial take was it doesn't seem to be based on what happened. So the first thing I wanted to do was go into Pro Football Reference and see if his snap counts increased or decreased as the season went along. And they stayed pretty consistent. There were a couple of games in the middle where he went up, but where he was at the end of the season was kind of where he was at the beginning of the season. So I wonder if it's look, he's not, I don't think he's happy because I think what happened, at the very least, we know this happened. He was given every chance to win more playing time in training camp, and it looks like Slayton clearly beat him out. And then once the season started, you had your three wide receivers, and he was clearly the fourth wide receiver. If he was pouting, if he was being an asshole, I would think his snap counts would have gone to zero or near zero in many of these games. So look, I love Connor. He used to write for the site, but I just don't, if the coaches were pissed off at him, then I don't understand why his snap count stayed the same. So that's the only thing to me, it doesn't make any sense. But I do think he lost out to Slayton. That's my take on this.
Sure.
I can tell you a quick story I told on the Rush Pod. When the Giants played the Commanders at home, I saw something I've never seen before. This is an honest, true story that kind of took me by surprise. I sit on the 22-yard line. I sit 22 rows up. I've seen a lot of football since 1986 sitting in them seats, right? I've never seen this done before, okay? There was and I know when I bring up the play, you're going to remember it. I think it was Locke almost got sacked in the end zone, okay? And I think he got the ball out late. And he might have been a little dinged up on his way up, so it was kind of like an on-field timeout, right? When the play ended. Hyatt had run a fly route. He was all the way downfield, and Neighbors winds up on the sideline. Camera goes to Neighbors, and you see him hanging out on the sideline with Jaden Daniels, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Teammates, and they're talking, excuse me, they're talking and, chumming it up.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
No. Didn't bother me at all.
I didn't like it.
It didn't overly bother me because it was like a TV timeout because there was an injury, right?
Sure.
This is the story. Hyatt's all the way downfield running this go route, right? I've never seen it, Chris. Remember the story I told you? I've never seen a player, after a play is over, he turned around and he sauntered through the middle of the Commanders' defense and jogged off the field. It was like he was downfield by himself. He could have ran straight over to the sidelines and been on the Giants sideline. He just walked, just casually walked through the defense, no accountability for where he was on the field. There was no assertion man, I need to get off the field or I need to get in the huddle. He literally was like, F you, don't care.
Pouting. Pouting.
Yeah, pouting. This is bull crap. And he literally walked through the Commanders defense. And then when he got onto the Giants side, he jogged off the field. It was such an F you. I don't care. I don't want to be here. And I've never seen a player do that. Even if he was tired of being a decoy, he could have ran straight off the field into his own sideline.
Right.
He just walked through the Commanders' defense by himself.
Yeah, and Craig, how about the story? I said I'm not going to mention the player's name, but somebody had made a comment on social media, on Facebook actually, about not Allen Robinson was in camp with the Giants.
Yeah,
and he was given Hyatt a lot of credit for how he was in training camp, and then I made the comment, well, he's got to learn the playbook. That's been the rumor. Learn the playbook better and know where to line up. That seems to be what's the underlying factor in a lot of this, why he's not getting playing time. And I had a Giants player actually put a heart or a thumbs up next to that comment. So that just spoke volumes to me that his own teammate who's on offense put that. And that's maybe there's some credibility to that assumption.
I think he's getting snaps if you look at, but he's not productive. So I'm actually being more critical of him than, because on my site, people, and John thinks the same as I do. I mean, thinks the same as other people do about this, that I'm very defensive of Jalen Hyatt, and that I'm rooting for him. Well, of course I'm rooting for him. He's a Giant. I'm rooting for all the players. I rooted for the, who do we call
the carcass of Daniel Jones.
So my problem with him isn't that he didn't play. My problem is that when he did play, there wasn't anything. He had 8 catches last year.
Production,
which is so he had like 30% of the snaps. That's ridiculous. So I'm actually being more critical, though I still want to see him with a legit quarterback, because Daniel wouldn't throw the damn ball down there. My bigger problem is if you guys are right, then why is the coaching staff not reacting to that? So in other words, why is he getting the 30% snaps that he's getting now? They should sit him and give Ford Wheaton or somebody else on the practice squad those snaps if he's dogging it. So that's what the only disconnect I don't see. Either the wide receiver screwing up and is a dog and needs to be off this team, or the coaches need to be a little bit tougher here. So that's my problem with this whole situation. Something doesn't smell right. I don't know what it is. The good news is he had a good practice today. It doesn't mean that much. It's an OTA. We'll see. No one was jamming him at the line of scrimmage.
Eric, I've also seen him drop a ton of balls. So let's not say like this guy's the next Link Neighbors. I've seen this guy drop balls
and I agree with that. But the Giants also had a catching problem throughout the team. Theo Johnson, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton. They've all been dropping balls like crazy. Yeah. So again, it sounds like I'm defending the dude. They all got to catch better. And again, my argument with Slayton is if he is a problem, get rid of him. But if he's not a problem, let's see what he can do by throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah. Eric, you made a great comment. Press coverage, I think, is an issue because he's a slight guy. The strength isn't there, and you feel like he gets manhandled off the line and gets rerouted and not be able to get into his route. So I think you nailed it there. That was some of the concern last year too, not being able to get into his routes.
And that was his reputation coming out of college. Now the good news is, right before I got online with you guys to get into sort of my Giants mindset, I put on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Schmelk and Matt Sytak, and they were talking about what happened today at camp. And they mentioned that he scored twice. Jalen Hyatt scored twice, and then Matt Sytak made an off-the-cuff reference. He said, "Man, he's put on muscle." He said he's much bigger, noticeably bigger in the upper body. So we'll see. I mean, I thought he had put on muscle last year too. I don't know if you guys remember this. He was sort of bragging about his guns.
That was the talk too. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right. So we'll see. The proof is he's gonna. So that's why I wanted to bring up Gabe Davis. To me, if they sign Gabe Davis, it's a horrible sign for Jalen Hyatt. That's the way I would take it. And I kind of expect them to sign Davis at some point, but maybe they won't, Chris. Like you were alluding to earlier. If he has a real strong spring, they'll say, you know what, maybe we don't need Gabe Davis. Hyatt looks
or maybe Wells shows his connection with Dart, and they're like, you know what, let's keep that connection together. So let's wrap up the roster depth around the horn real quick. Give it a letter grade at the moment of what we think of the overall roster depth.
Who do you want to start with?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm gonna give it a B- right now. I think that's fairly accurate. Some stuff will shake out during camp. Again, we agree that there are two key areas. I think it's a strength that'll play itself out Others think it's a question. I think offensive line. I think for me, tight end. I know you don't care, but with a quarterback, that tight end actually has something to do. So yeah, I'm going to give it a B minus.
Chris?
I'm going to go with a B.
Oh,
B. Okay.
B.
I'm going to go with a B because B minus feels like, the poor man's C plus. And I'm not, I'm not that, because of how well the defense has been put together. I gotta go B. I gotta go
All
B.
right.
I gotta
All
go
right.
B.
Nice. A poor man C plus.
Yeah,
I
it
like
is.
that.
It's good.
All right, Eric.
I'll go with B. I think B sounds fair. I think there are a couple spots on the. I'm a little concerned at wide receiver, and I can see the issue at tight end, though. I only think we're going to keep 3 or 4. So again, I think it much depends on Theo Johnson. So B sounds right to me.
All right, and Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the B as well. My concern is the depth at the receiver position. I think when you get past the 3 with Wandale, Neighbors, and Slayton, there's a lot of unknowns there. A lot of unknowns. A lot of upside too, but but a lot of unknowns. So that's my biggest concern, is even a little bit more possibly than the offensive line, is the depth if injuries were to happen at the receiver spots.
Nice.
And,
All
and I
right.
expect them to hit wide receiver and offensive line big time next offseason. Those are the areas that I expect them to hit.
You're projected too far ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what,
So
to me, that sort of ties in where the depth might be a problem too.
all right.
Hey, John, can we do another exercise? How many offensive players will end up on IR by week
Yeah,
one?
right.
Do we have to? Can we
We're
throw
trying to
an
get rid
over-under
of the
on it?
bad. We're trying to get
Can
rid
we
of the
throw an
bad
over-under
juju.
on it?
You're totally
We're
ruining
positive
the
tonight.
mojo,
No, we're
dude.
good for one.
You know what? You know what really happens though, regardless of whether it's offense or defense, it's usually a position,
Yeah,
and then that
gets
one
nailed.
position gets ravaged, and you're like, "What the hell?"
With one
So-
type of injury too. It's just
Yeah, right.
There was
right.
the
Now-
year of the calf, then there was
Oh.
the year of the ACL, and
Yeah, but now we have someone to blame, Chris.
There we go. Yeah, you brought it up.
I know.
All right,
I'm
so
not-
let's
I'll
wrap
bring
it
back,
and
bring it
let's
back.
get ready to pour it out.
yeah.
Oh, Shane Bowen in the defense. Here we go. This is a big one, and I know Eric loves this one, so I'm going to let Eric start off. Thoughts on Shane Bowen and this year's Giants defense?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I think this defense is loaded. This is the best, as our guest said earlier, this is the best team, at least defensively, that they've had in a long time. I mean, they're loaded up front. The secondary looks loaded. And I like the linebackers a little bit better. By the way, Bobby Okereke told everyone today he had a disc problem last year. Thankfully, it didn't need surgery, but that explains part of the issues that he was having. He said he couldn't even sit down. So I can imagine playing with that. So I think the pressure is on Shane Bowen. He's got Kayvon Thibodeau. He's got Brian Burns. He's got Abdul Carter outside as the 3-headed monster. He's got Dexter in the middle. Now he's got Darius Alexander there, plus Golston up front. I mean, Jesus Christ, that this may be the best front in football now that Philly has lost some of the players that they've lost. Mm-hmm. I love the 2 guys they picked up in the secondary. A lot is on Tay Banks. If Tay plays well, the secondary's low. So to me, Shane Bowen, man, you better deliver, because on paper, this is a top 10 defense to me. And so to me, if this doesn't work out, I don't like blaming coaches for a lot of things, but this is a coaching issue if this doesn't turn into a top 10 defense.
You want to get your phone out and go, he was second in red zone defense. That scene from freaking Hard Knocks will never go away. Craig, thoughts?
Yeah, I got to tell you, if we had done this show 4 weeks ago, because I just don't like Bone, okay? And we literally did an hour-and-a-half show on Rush, on just between Shane and Bowen and like the bonehead moves they made and so on and so on. However, 2 weeks ago, we had Dunleavy on, and Dunleavy said something that just literally stopped me in my tracks. He said Bowen literally was like putting Band-Aids on everything he had because nothing panned out from the minute he thought, who was the guy in camp on Hard Knocks he was talking about that he thought was going to be a star?
Isaiah Simmons.
No, not Simmons.
Boogie Basham. Boogie Basham.
Nope, we're getting closer though.
What position?
I know.
Defensive tackle.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. And they got rid of him.
And they got rid of him.
Anderson,
Exactly.
Ryder Anderson. Ryder
Yes.
Anderson.
Right.
Yes.
Ryder Anderson.
Yeah. From the minute he opened his mouth and said Ryder Anderson to the end of the year, everything fell apart. And Dunleavy was saying what you saw last year, while, you know, he may not be everybody's cup of tea, but everything was a Band-Aid. Banks played bad. Dexter went down. Okereke playing with a bulging disc. Pinnock just totally just not being able to play anymore. Can't run. Like everything just basically imploded on him. So he was basically trying to like fix it as he went. You know what I mean? And like just like nowhere to go, basically. You know, you're like, well, this guy's hurt. This guy can't play. This guy's too slow. This guy's injured. Like, and it was from the outside, you were like, man, Bowen just sucks, you know, like, and listen, Carl Banks said the same thing. 7 weeks in a row, he didn't think he made any adjustments. But as you got into the offseason, you realized how many guys were injured, how many guys playing out of position, how many guys just didn't have a good year. And to Eric's point, like, Tay Banks just started the year off batting. It got worse, right? Mm-hmm. So you wind up starting to like kind of, all right, well, he's all I got, so I got to figure something else out. Like basically just putting round pegs in square holes throughout the season. But you started off, remember, Dexter Lawrence was leading the league in sacks through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year. He's making up for all the other guys behind him that aren't doing anything. And then Dexter goes down and you're like, oh, what do I do now? So I'm not defending Bowen because I'm not a big Bowen guy because he's not aggressive enough for me. You know, I mean, you basically you want to run a zone defense and you don't have anybody that can run. A man defense and you don't have anybody that can run man, right? So you go out and you get a Debo because a Debo can play man, right? I mean, because that's what he ran. It's what he ran. So at New Orleans, and then he played a zone in college. So a Debo can play man and zone. Well, Banks couldn't do it. And he showed you he couldn't do it, but you didn't have it wasn't like you could bench him and replace him. So my thought on Bowen is, and it came right from Dunleavy. Dunleavy was like, look, I understand a lot of people don't like him, but behind the scenes, everything went wrong. Starting off with saying Ryder Anderson might be your guy, and you wind up cutting him. And then Okereke with a bulging disc when nobody was talking about it. Like, why is it Bobby Okereke, the same old Bobby Okereke that we know? He didn't have a good season. Nobody knew what was wrong with him until 4 games before the season ended, right? And Banks took a beating with Goodright. He played terrible in a system that didn't fit him. Right. So I'm hoping the rebound is now that they have all these additional players. I think Eric said potentially a top 10 defense, that they are stacked. They got players that can play in Bowen's system. And I think year 2 is a whole lot easier than year 1, right?
Right.
So my issue with that is this. I think Dunleavy may be right. He also may be being like a little overly. I've talked to some people. They gave me info, so I'm going to share that info.
Sure.
What the hell is Shane's system? Or, Bowen's system? What's his system? Because you putting 2 defensive tackles on the field and thinking you're going to stop the run isn't going to happen. You had other players. You just didn't use them. The fact that you talked about Ryder Anderson, who had not proven a goddamn thing in the NFL, tells me I'm a little concerned about your decision-making ability. But that also went behind when you said, Isaiah Simmons, this guy, and you hadn't even signed him yet, by the way, when that conversation happened. And then what happened? We got Isaiah Simmons. We saw how great Isaiah Simmons could be on one play, on one special teams, blocking a field goal. Other than that, the guy disappears. He's never been anything on defense.
Yeah, he did nothing.
Bowen concerns me because you've got the parts. This is the part. Eric and I have talked about this numerous times. You've got the parts. But if you don't put them out there in a way that they can be used effectively, then literally you've just got a bunch of parts. It's got to be a cohesive unit. If you just put Lawrence and another defensive tackle and say, we're going to stop the run, teams are going to continue to bash you until you do. So we've got to figure that system out. Now, I'm with you on the Tay Banks thing. Tay Banks was an ATM. Every wide receiver made bank going off against that guy. So this year, you hope things have changed a little bit. How are you going to use them? I think Paulson and Daboll is definitely going to be a big help there. But what if Banks doesn't improve? who's the guy that plays corner opposite of a Daboll?
Maybe Flott. Yeah, Flott.
Yeah.
You move Phillips outside, you take him out of the slot. I mean,
no, Phillips is one of the best slots in football. You're not moving him. It's going to be.
But so that's what I'm saying. Is you've got you better hope that
Mhm.
whatever it was just a bad situation last year, and you can use, and Banks has improved, and you can use them. Well, we got the same problem. So I am concerned that Bowen may have lived off Mike Vrabel far more than we thought he did. Chris?
Yeah, it might. He's going to get the keys to the Ferrari. Just don't crash it, because if he crashes it, he's going to end up like James Betcher. He'll be jettisoned out of the league and never get another job. As a defensive coordinator.
There's a black name from the past.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I mean,
geez.
the problem I have with Bowen is that you always hear the team takes the personality of the head coach and the defense takes the personality of the defense. You've seen Shane Bowen on the sidelines. I don't see anything that invigorates me as a fan to see how this defense plays around and surrounds, themselves with this coach. I think when you play to the strengths, and there were injuries, but hey, how about giving Andre Patterson some credit? If you want to talk about the bunches of sacks that came those first 6-7 weeks, Bowen, the sacks. Well, how about Andre Patterson? Nobody mentions his name because he's the one that really got Dexter to turn it up another level with his hand placement, his power, his punch. So different things that, Andre Patterson worked on with Dexter. So I think if you want to give Bowen the credit for those first, bunch of weeks when they were playing, when you're getting the sacks and bunches, you got to look at, Andre Patterson as well. But my concern with Bowen is that does he have enough, I would say brain cells, but does he have enough creativity?
Right, that's good word.
To navigate himself through injuries, through game plans, through systems. And I feel like he is just locked into what he believes. Either way.
Chris, tell him what McFadden told us.
About he wants to be, he was able to be let loose a little bit more under Wink, and he has it in his bag, but he hasn't done that yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, he said, we asked McFadden, the difference between playing with Wink and Bowen. Winky, there was a lot more packages for McFadden to put more his pass rushing abilities. He did say that Bowen has it in his bag. It's just basically he needs to he's there to, it's there to be used. He didn't say he has to use it. He said it's there. He's got to use it. He's got to use it, but it's there.
How much of that do you think was a product? Now, I'm almost sounding like I'm defending the guy. Was a product of the fact that the Giants really had one legitimate defensive lineman in Lawrence. Nunez Roches has not played anywhere near what he was in Tampa, has provided nothing. We had a couple of the other guys. Phillips was one. We brought him in. We let him go. Cowboys pick him up. We really didn't have another guy to be that guy. How much of that played a role in maybe how Burns and Thibodeau and McFadden and even Okereke with the injury, their stuff got changed because you didn't have anybody to occupy the middle. And again, I'm not trying to make excuses. But I'm just curious.
You're right, John. I'm sure that was a big part of it. But the odd part is when Dexter got hurt, the actual running game the running defense actually improved a bit, which was very strange. But maybe he got more basic, right? Maybe the scheme started, became a little bit more vanilla. So, but hey, if that's the case, go back to that. If we need to stop the running game, because to me, it all starts with stopping the running game. Then you can let guys loose.
And if you want to get in the weeds a little bit, John, so a couple things happened that fans don't talk about because maybe it's not sexy. But a couple things happened is, one, you're always at a disadvantage because Tay Banks had a miserable year, right? Guys are open. There's no 1, 2, 3 second coverage back there, right? Guys are just open. So the ball's coming out of the quarterback's hands faster, right? Then you got the linebackers aren't scraping because they're not clean because there's nobody up front to keep them clean, right? They're throwing, and then Dexter goes down and you start rotating these younger guys. And even in fact, that when believe it or not, when Okereke got hurt and McFadden moved over into Okereke's spot and got the dot, McFadden played even better than he was playing. So you kind of have to look holistically, it just nothing seemed to work for Bowen. There was not enough adjustments in the game. You know what I mean? He started with a piece of paper. And that's what they stuck with. That was it. This is what we prepared for. That's all we could do. And McFadden was like, look, it's there. McFadden told us literally, hey, look, it's there. But Wink was more unpredictable. He tried to change it up.
Right.
He's throwing guys in the A gap. He's bringing guys from the C gap. He's bringing safety blitzes and corner blitzes. And Bowen's got it. They practice it. It's installed. He just doesn't call it. It's the same, off the card type of call week in and week out. And he just doesn't adjust in the game. So when Tay Banks is getting crushed, right? And Okereke's hurt and Pinnock can't take an angle to make a tackle, like everything just starts to implode.
Well, that was a big thing with across the defense is the tackling. So that's not on Bowen. That's on the defensive players. Look, I think Bowen is in the category that most defensive coordinators in the league want to be. They're not like Wink. Wink was an anomaly. He used to say pressure breaks pipes, and he likes to get in your face and play zero coverage and and gamble. And Dallas would eat Wink. People who laud Wink forget how badly Dallas used to crush us when Wink was there because their wide receivers would kill our corners. What he wants to do is what most defensive coordinators want to do. In a perfect world, they want to play everybody back and rush four. He's got the guys now that do that. He can rush four.
Tampa.
He can rush four and get to the quarterback now. That's so he can do that. So what Craig's talking about, I completely agree that he didn't bring out all those tricks. I don't know if he really wants to bring out those tricks, even with the new guys, because I think he kind of wants to play it safer in the back end, with the one exception. This is where I want the creativity Chris wants. He's got to be creative with Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau and Burns. So that's where the creativity's got to come, because you can't. I don't want those guys sitting on the bench. I don't want Abdul Carter sitting on the bench. So you got to switch in between inside linebacker, outside linebacker, spy, move them around, do all these things. To me, that's where the creativity comes in. And the last thing I will say here on this part is Ty Banks. If he's the number 2 corner instead of the number 1 corner, that might help things. So if Daboll becomes the number 1 guy, and the thing that was frustrating about Tay Banks is there were games where he played really well. Like when he went against McLaurin of the Commanders, he shut him down. But then he would have a horrible game. His tailspin started when he was right with the wide receivers, and he didn't turn around and knock the damn ball away. He had perfect coverage, and he went and he didn't make a play on the ball.
He doesn't know how to play man.
Ball awareness.
And then as the year progressed, John's pet peeve, and a lot of Giants, he just stopped. It's like his heart wasn't in it. It was
he didn't tackle.
What the hell are you doing?
Remember the joke I used last time? I won't do it again because we do try to get players on, so I don't want to do that again. But so I'll say this, because Craig brings up a point, and then Eric, you brought it up. I think even further, Chris. I think some of what you were already saying hinted at this as well. So I'm just gonna pose it in a way that's a little bit different. How much of the lack of creativity could we say was brought about, or maybe even necessitated by the fact that you knew your own offense can't freaking score?
Oh God, yes.
So you're you're almost willing to do the death by 1,000 paper cuts, hoping that the other team will make a mistake, that maybe we'll get a stop. We don't want to give up the big plays. We're going to try to just manage it. And Craig, that kind of goes to a lot where you were saying where they're not releasing guys, they're not going after them. We're playing a little bit softer, or I won't say soft, but you're playing more reactive versus attacking. And because your offense sucks, you cannot score points. And because look at the games we lost early on, right? We lost to Washington. They didn't even score a touchdown. We lost to Cincinnati. They scored 17 points. One was a quarterback.
Yeah.
We lost to Dallas in a game in which Dallas could do nothing. We lost to Dallas at home because we can't score. Could that have played a role in how conservatively the Giants played their schemes on defense?
I think so.
I'm speechless.
Yeah. No, I think he's nailed it, John. I think you're right. I think that plays a big part of it. They're going to play things a little closer to the vest, games a little tighter. They're not going to take more risks. But the one thing I will point out also, and Wink wasn't perfect, but you saw the turnover ratio with the team that didn't make the playoffs the year earlier, had a plus 14. I think it was tied with the Ravens at the top. The Giants were terrible on offense, didn't make the playoffs. And then last year, just a total drop off on turnovers.
No,
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's all Bowen's fault, but it was drastic. It was a very drastic drop off. It wasn't even in the middle. It was from left to right last year.
How about this? Sometimes when you know you're going to lose a fight, you go to win a round. You know you're going to lose this fight, right?
Rod Russ, read and react.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Rod Russ. you know you're going. If you know you're going to lose the fight, I'm not going to lose 12 rounds. I'm going to make sure I win a round or two. I'm going to go out there and I am going to impress for 2 rounds. And that's what Bowen never, ever did. You were outmatched most of the time. He never went for it. And that's what you were looking for. Come out after halftime, punch him in the mouth, and still lose, but at least you punched him in the mouth. Instead, we just got bludgeoned over and over and over. You just wanted to be like, you know what? We're rushing 4. We're rushing 5. We're bringing safety blitzes. We're bringing corner blitzes. We're bringing McFadden, carrot cake through the A gap. We're going to try something because we're going to lose the war, but let's win a couple battles here. And that's what never happened, which sets the bad taste in your mouth for Bowen, right? Because sometimes you're going to lose, guys. You're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, but you know what? It's kind of like that old saying, hey, you may kick my ass, but I'm not going to the hospital alone. Right?
Craig,
you're coming with me.
You sound like someone like me who's an old guy who saw the Giants play in the 80s, 90s on some bad teams, but the defense kept the Giants in the game and made the other team bloody. So that's what bothers me too, is I'm okay. I don't like it, but I'm okay if we lose a game 15-13 and you beat the shit out of the other team. But I don't want to lose a team. I don't want to lose 35-10 and the team's running up and down the field on you.
The New York Giants lost 8 games by 1 score or less. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that, you know what? If you went for it, Eric, if you just went for it in one game, maybe something changes. Maybe there's an interception, as Chris alluded to. Your turnover ratio sucks. Try something. And that was my thing. So John is correct that, a lot of things he didn't have to work with. And he was being conservative because the offense can't score. But at the end of the day, again, you're not a good team. Win a couple rounds or whatever analogy you want to make. You know what I'm saying? Like go out there and try something.
Right.
And they did nothing. Everything was status quo. Like I said, Carl Banks is like this. 7 weeks, we're looking at the same piece of paper. Go out there and just try something different.
Well, Carl Banks' defense, the other team couldn't run the ball. So the Giants went through a 2-year period where the other team couldn't rush for more than 100 yards on the New York Giants. The problem with the Giants defense, including under Wink and including under Shane, is the other team's averaging 5 yards a carry. So how the hell are you supposed to get the goddamn ball back when you're giving up 10 yards every 2 plays? And we're not even talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone's running the ball up and down the field. It's amazing the Giants had as many sacks as they did last year, given the fact that they couldn't stop the run. My biggest number one thing is with this defensive coordinator moving forward is they've got to stop the run. They couldn't do it under Wink. They haven't been able to do it under Shane. You got Dexter Lawrence in the middle of the freaking defense. He's not getting pushed around in the middle there. John has talked about this before. You got 2 defensive linemen. Stop the run. Then you get in 3rd and long, 2nd and long, and then Abdul Carter and Kayvon and Brian Burns will do even more damage than they're doing. They got to stop the. That's me.
I'll say this. I'm going to do 3 things. First things, number one of the easiest ways to improve your defense against the run, and this is going to sound funny when I say it, is your offense scores points. When you don't score points, the other team is under no pressure to go pass. We'll run at you. And if you try to stop the run, we'll make a couple completions. We get a first down. Now you got to play the pass again. We'll run. They can just dictate all day long. They're never afraid that, God, we better score right here because if the Giants get the ball back, they're going to go and score. Nobody worried about us scoring, ever. So running game, and the running game gets to be built up. And we all know as longtime fans, I mean, doesn't matter which one of us is the oldest of the group, but we're all in the same range.
Hey,
we're all in the same range. the fact of the matter is the running game really comes to bear in the fourth quarter.
Mhm.
You might not have run for a ton, but if you run a lot and you pound people, and that's how the Giants did it in 90, you would hit people. By the time you got to the fourth quarter, teams just couldn't play the run anymore. The Giants would just ground them into the ground. They would just eat the clock up, and that'd be the end of the game. It's not that way in the NFL now, but the Eagles can just run on us whenever they feel like it because there's never a threat that we're going to score. So that's one. The second part of it, I think, we should see a difference from an attacking defense. The Giants do need to get turnovers. And if you do, and I think Carter, to me, there are two people that are going to be absolutely they're going to be the pinnacle of whatever happens this year. Abdul Carter, which I totally love. He was the guy I wanted at 3. You move him around, he's got to attack from all over. But behind that, I want to see Javon Holland lead that secondary from the safety position. Allow a Newbin to develop. Allow Belton to come in and develop. You get that leader, that true leader, that guy who can play the ball in the middle of that field. Now all of a sudden, because tight ends eat us up, we need to stop that, the run and you stop the run by being able to attack, by being able to play offense. The third thing I'm going to say, and it's a shameless plug, but June 17th, we have Carl Banks coming on the show. We're looking forward to doing that. It's all set up. So it'll be a lot of fun to get Carl on. I've been working on it for a while. We got it locked in. It's June 17th. So be ready for that. We'll have more as we go forward, but Carl Banks will be joining the show.
We'll ask him to compare this defense with his.
Yeah, right.
He may never come on again if you ask.
It'll be a short conversation.
But Craig, I agree with you completely. I hope you understand where I agree with you 100%. You got to punch. You got to win some of these rounds, and I'm on the same page with you. That's why I'm so damn frustrated because when there were bad Giants, like take the '95 Giants for instance, they went 5-11. But that defense hurt other teams, and they won rounds, and that team lost a ton of games in the fourth quarter. But you felt like the defense was keeping them in games. This defense to me should be keeping the Giants in games. But I also think John's correct too that when the offense can't do anything, it changes what you do on defense too. So I think there are 2 good points.
I think what Bowen came over here, a lot we heard was like, he plays those like almost like a Tampa 2. He'll play those safeties deep. He'll let the team almost like a Patrick Graham a little bit, or Perry Fuel, let him come down the field, meticulously. Hopefully there's penalties. There could be a turnover. And then the big thing on Bowen was he was great in the red zone. The problem is, like you alluded to, John, the Giants don't score points by the fourth quarter without depth. The team's tapped out and fried on defense because they've played so much on the field.
Javon Holland, no one's talking about, and I'm glad John brought him up, no one's talking about Javon Holland this offseason. He is a huge addition to this team, both from a leadership standpoint, as John was talking about, but he makes plays on the football. Now his stats don't show it, but he's always getting his hands on the ball, and I expect a huge year out of him. And I think one of the reasons they let Pinnock go and they made the changes that they made in the secondary is they wanted to get guys that would get their hands on the ball, and I think they're going to do that. So as our guest mentioned, Andrew Phillips, up and coming player, Daboll. Thank goodness he's practicing because he broke his tibia.
Yeah.
Fibula. Was it? Which one was it? It was the more serious one. And people don't come back from that very easily. And he's already fully practicing. So thank goodness he's already practicing. So the secondary hopefully is going to get some hands on footballs now too, and we got to get some turnovers.
And Eric, to your point, with the 3 safety look, when Newbin, Holland, and Belton, Bowen does like those 3 safety looks, and Belton's always around the ball. I think today he even had an interception, but so that's a great thing with Holland and Belton on the field together. Maybe that'll happen.
All right, so with that, let's move on. All right, so we go with another round here, and we talked about it a little bit when we talked about the depth. So let's be a little more specific. We need to see the Giants' offense has been to say it's been vanilla would be basically the most obvious and understated thing possible. It was just vanilla. I mean, it's vanilla without any taste.
It's tofu. It's tofu vanilla.
It's like ice milk, but it was just ice. We didn't even get the milk.
I like to call it the COVID.
It was non-dairy. It was non-dairy.
Nice.
It was vegan.
There we go. when you drag the carcass of Daniel Jones out at quarterback, this is what you get with an offense. But it was more than that. I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot all last offseason. They showed too much in Hard Knocks about how badly they seemed to want a different quarterback. Then they didn't get one. They didn't get a rookie, but they didn't bring in competition. That's been a big thing with the BBI, BigBlueInteractive.com. That's been a big issue with folks on there. There you go. That there was no competition at quarterback. Why would you make it so obvious that Jones wasn't necessarily your guy, that you thought you might have to move away from him, and then you bring in Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito are your only answers at quarterback? Everything last year led to averaging what? I think we were barely 15 points, and that's really thrown in the Colts game. Eric does not. The draft has happened. We got good players.
Mm-hmm.
But that game really, that kind of shifted the stats overall. I mean, we were a 14-point team going most of the year. It was pretty pathetic. So when we talk about more dynamic offense, and we'll go back around, and I'll start with you, Eric. What are you looking for in the offense to be more dynamic? What should we expect, especially with a new quarterback room, really?
You know, the weird thing, and people have mentioned it, including us, is, and this could be good, this could be bad. A lot of people think it's bad. They brought back everybody except the quarterback. So they seem to be saying the problem was the quarterback, because nothing on offense is really going to change all that much in terms of the starters. Now, they've added Cam Scadaboo, Mark B here has, and I agree with this. I think he will help a great deal too. But it's the same offense except the quarterback. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this team does this year with just making a switch at quarterback. Because if we end up scoring 24 points a game just because the quarterback changed, that's going to be pretty freaking hilarious. I mean, in a tragic sense, because it shows you how bad Daniel Jones was. Now, if they can't score with the new quarterback, then this regime's in trouble. So we'll have to see. The other thing too is, again, we all know that the weirdness of this season is going to be, we're basically waiting for, when does Jackson Dart become the new guy at quarterback? Does it happen at the start of this year? Does it happen during this year? Does it happen next year?
Hold a lot of that.
We'll hold that. Okay.
Yeah, hold that subject. Stick to just a
the
dynamic offense.
Okay. So
jump in the gun, Eric. You jump in the gun.
But the other thing too, and John and I have talked about this a little bit, is I don't know what this offense is going to be. I could see very easily Kafka and Daboll saying, you know what? We have Cam Scadaboo. We have Tracy. Our offensive line, if Andrew Thomas is back, is going to be better. Let's pound the football some. Let's run play action, which Russell Wilson's very good at play action. Let's do some of that. But I don't know what kind of offense they're going to be. I'd be almost tempted to become a little bit more of a running football team, even with Malik Neighbors. Not saying I don't throw to Malik Neighbors, but I like our running backs, and I'd be very curious to see what a Tracy and Cam Scadaboo backfield could do with some play action passing. And then you have your defense. Your defense is hopefully getting the ball back, creating field position, and you're staying in games. And maybe we get back to like the 2022 formula where you're staying close to teams and then you win in the fourth quarter.
What do you think, Craig?
The question is that you're asking me is, can the offense be more dynamic, right?
Correct. or just what does that even mean to you?
Yeah. I gotta say, Eric, you're a football savant. No. And I normally 9 out of 10 times I'll agree with you, but I can't even believe you went there, because
running? You mean running?
Yeah. Humbly, because we're all friends here, and I.
You can tell I'm full of. You can tell me I'm full of shit all day long. I don't.
No.
Son of a bitch.
No, not. It's funny. Not in that direction, right? Because we're adults here. I'm surprised
Not according to my
because
wife.
there's nothing in Daboll that wants to run the ball.
No, I
mean,
agree. I agree.
everywhere he
Or
goes, he wants
Kafka.
he wants to throw the rock, right?
Right.
But what's interesting about where we are from a maturation process of the Daboll, here's what people don't realize. If you look at everywhere Daboll's been, he has small wide receivers, a lot of gadgety junk guys, and he likes to throw the ball underneath, and he likes yak.
Yep.
Everybody wants to know why Wan'Dale Robinson runs every single damn route, 3 yards short of the sticks. They're like, can he just run to the sticks? Like, it's literally in the game plan, is throwing this stuff short of the sticks and letting Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson make plays. I'm not saying it's ideal, but they're going to throw the ball. What I think you're going to see, and I could be wrong, is 2 things. And I know you're not going to like the second one. But the first one is, I think Russell Wilson got kind of shut down in Pittsburgh because it was actually honest. They loved him in Pittsburgh. The offensive coordinator and his wife and Russell Wilson and his wife, they were getting along, going to dinner. Everything was great until Russell Wilson is changing the play at the line of scrimmage. Right. And then they shut Russell down like, hey, old man, stop changing our plays.
Right.
We don't want that. It gets sour and he's out. We could have had Russell last year. They let him out of the building, right? Because it was, as John said, they trotted out Jones again. This year, from a Jones perspective, it's going to be more, it should be more, I'm trying to think of the word, well-balanced, okay? Like last year, it was throw the ball to Neighbors, and then if Neighbors isn't there, force it to Wan'Dale, right? You should get collectively a more balanced offense. One is, yes, you're going to see a lot more dynamic plays, from Neighbors, but you're going to see Neighbors in the slot. You're going to see Neighbors inside and outside, right? Maybe you see him run those Odell quick slants, right? You're going to see that. You're also going to see, which I'm hoping back to John's original point a half hour ago, I'm hoping they get the tight end maybe more involved, right? Yes, 100% Mark B, that there's more of a vertical game. But what the Giants haven't done well since Tiki Barber, or maybe a little bit of Ahmad Bradshaw, is you're hoping that, listen, Cam Scadaboo's not a big cat. We don't know what he can do in the NFL at 5'9", right? So, but end zone threat, but he catches the ball so well out of the backfield that you should see a new dynamic with Tracy and Scadaboo doing some different things, more bubble screens, more wheel routes, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The issue, and and I know I'm jumping the gun here, John, so apologizing in advance, is if Russell Wilson wins, and I know you're not going to like when I say it, but if Russell Wilson wins 9 games or a wild card, he's coming back next year, even though they got Dart. He's not, if they win, there's a really good chance he comes back. I know people don't like that thought process, and there is not a bigger Dart guy on the planet. I've been watching Dart since he came from USC. I won't jump the gun on there, John, but just saying that, this offense should be more dynamic because it'll be more well-rounded.
So good point. And yes, and the Dart thing, I'm fine with what you said there. It's kind of a whole different subject matter for the next segment. That's a different thing entirely, and I have a nice little funny leading into it. So that being said, here's where I agree, but I don't even know if you said it in a way that you didn't think it was a good idea, just that's what's in the game plan. We can go back to a video that we did right before, Eric, or right after the Texans game. And one of the things that we said, if you're bringing Daniel Jones back, and at the time, you assumed things would be better because he had more weapons. At the very least, we thought, and I'll speak just for myself, I said his stats should be better in the passing game, maybe a little less in a running game coming off the knee because you have a Neighbors, because we got another tight end, because we improved the offensive line in theory. It should be a little bit better, but there's still a ceiling, right? His ceiling was 22 touchdowns, 15 passing, 7 rushing. 22 was roughly the ceiling. If he could get a little bit more overall, that was going to be a great year. But one of the things that we said early on, that we worried that the Giants offensive line was going to take some time, that the short passing game would be the de facto running game. What is the most important thing to happen if you are to do a short passing game as a de facto running game? You have to be fucking accurate with the ball. It can't be the guy has to stop dead to catch it or go down low to catch it, and then he gets creamed. Wandell, the idea of getting Wandell and having him get out is you've got to hit him in motion. It's got to be literally head height. By the way, he's unbelievably freaking short. So if you're throwing it low to a short dude, that dude's got to go to the ground, basically. He's going to get pummeled. He's carrying a $180 maybe, and that's if it's really wet.
And he's a body catcher, which doesn't help him.
And that's true, but you make it even worse if you throw it at his fucking knees. You've got to at least lead him. You can't make the guy stop. By the way, you gave Malik Neighbors a freaking concussion from doing the gosh damn thing, same thing, right?
Look at the dart jersey.
I got a video that I'm going to be making during the summer that's going to include a dart jersey and my old Jones jerseys.
I want to hear Craig's when we do the next segment. I got to listen to Craig talk about dart, but
you've got to lead these guys, right? That short passing game. Now, the one thing that we talked about, Eric and I have talked about, is Russell Wilson brings passes to the flat, passes to the running backs, not just down the field, but passes out where these guys should be able to catch it and momentum keep going. Daniel Jones was a momentum killer, and that's literally before he even got on the field. But when he would throw the ball, he was a physically momentum killer. He would throw it low. He'd throw it behind him. He'd make them stop.
Too late.
Yeah, anything that you had planned to do with a crossing route or a quick move was done when the ball wasn't delivered properly. That's what I'm hoping that we get as far as dynamic offense, because Craig, you are 100% right. I think you're going to see, if you remember back to 22, we used Bellinger on an end around. We would have guys. Exactly. I mean, we used Tony until we got rid of him. But the problem was everybody in the freaking stadium knew if you put him on the field, you were giving it to him on a reverse because we didn't use him for anything else. But we have guys now and a quarterback that can make you pay for it. So that's to me what I think dynamic offense is.
You know, Chris, I don't know how much the highlights or film you've watched of Scadaboo, but Craig brought up a good point, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Chris, is the guy can catch. He has got great hands.
They said he may have the best hands actually on the team.
Yeah, and if you watch the playoffs, when the game was on the line, they sent him down the field, and he made a catch. He made a couple catches that were like wide receiver catches. But he does other things. He can punt. He can throw the football. So what I took away when I was watching the draft was two things. The behind the scene footage that the Giants released, that Daboll really wanted Jackson Dart, and that's getting into our next segment, John. So I won't get into that too much. But I think he really wanted Cam Scadaboo too. When you saw him ask about Scadaboo in one of the press conferences, he completely lit up. So
he loves those short guys, man.
He's a football player, man.
And so Chris, what I want to hear your thoughts on is, and I know you'd probably be just speculating, but do you think that it's not just the running, it's the passing as a receiver that Daboll looks at Scadaboo and says he's a weapon?
Absolutely. You go back to Buffalo when Bowen was there, when Daboll was there, throwing the ball to the backs was a big part of it, not so much running the ball. So I think this all plays. If you look at, I think the running backs that the Giants have brought in since Daboll and Shane have been here, they've all been pass catchers as well.
Right.
Maybe not the best runners, but they all had ability to catch, which fits Daboll's system. But I think with Scadaboo being 5'9", I think that comes as a bonus. He gets lost behind the line, right? Yeah. It's going to be hard to find him, and he's going to pop out in the flat, or he's going to be coming down the seam. So I think that's going to play to actually his advantage, being a little bit shorter, and he's stocky at 225. So I think you said it, John, with or maybe Craig, with Russell Wilson, working the flats more.
Yes.
And I think Russell Wilson, one of the best play action quarterbacks that we've had, since Eli. I think that play action starts to come back. Actually, Jones wasn't bad in the play action; didn't use it enough. But I think Russell Wilson with the play action is going to make this offense dynamic. But I agree with you with Scadaboo. I think he's going to be just as much of a pass catcher as a runner.
Yeah,
he's more of a play. So I was
What?
going to say Jones was more of a play actor. He
play.
he acted like he could play.
Yeah, I was more of a keeper, right? Yeah.
Sorry, Eric.
No. I was just going to say, I just think they have a vision for him, and I think Craig is right, and I think Chris is right. I think they're. So I have a hard time seeing the Giants becoming a running team. I am curious to see them. I'm curious to see them attempt it because I think they've got the running backs now. But I think Craig's instincts are correct that Daboll is a passing guy. I think Kafka is a passing guy. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm trying to envision is how does Cam Scadaboo fit into that? And I think it may be not that they won't run him, but I wonder if he's going to be more.
I'll tell you what, Eric, it just hit me. If the Giants could somehow get a lead for the first time in years and actually go into the fourth quarter with a lead, Scadaboo becomes a big part of this offense as the bell cow and smashing it up the middle and just draining that 4 minute inside 4 minutes and letting them get in those chunks of yards and wearing down that defense. So if the Giants can get some leads in the fourth quarter, I think Scadaboo is going to be such a fan favorite as that blue collar giant type of running back, just running over guys to get the. Imagine this, right, guys?
Doug Coder.
Hey, 4th and 1.
There you go. Going back.
Hey, 3rd and 1. There's a minute left. You got to get the first down. Scadaboo gets the big chunk, and the game's over. That's
let's be honest. Let's be honest. Kafka would be a runner, but the Giants won't let him go. So.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the youngins on the board are going, "Who the hell is Kodar?"
with that, we keep scratching the surface. So I think we need to get there. So Brian Daboll and Jackson Dart, the love is real. And with that, Eric, why don't we go ahead and just real quick, let's run that clip that shows the love.
Well, before we get to that clip, just remember this.
Good job, Joseph.
That man is psyched. And then this came out and they've pulled this.
And look, Russell's going to be the starter for us. We're going to develop Jackson. Come in and work as hard as he can to pick up our system.
Yes, sir.
I believe he has all the physical tools and the mental traits to be able to be a very good quarterback for us, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir.
So,
hey.
they're going to do a great job. I'm just trying to do a great job with,
Yeah, no, I got you.
Pumped up, but also being kind of low. Hey, you do a great job with it. If you need anything, let me know. Family stuff.
We're so happy. This is where everybody wanted to be. This is where everybody wanted to be.
I know. I just didn't want to keep on talking and say, look, this didn't happen or didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Because you never know how this stuff goes.
Yes, sir.
You could have got picked 9, you could have got picked whatever it may be. So, but you're where you're supposed to be.
Yes, sir, no doubt.
And I'm very excited. I want you to know that.
I appreciate it. I'm more excited.
So we got a lot of work to do. What I can do too is whether it's tomorrow, you can enjoy it with the family. I'll give you Russell, James's, and DeVito's number just to introduce yourselves. That'd be a good thing to do.
Yes, sir.
And I'll give you a couple of the other skill guys to reach out to.
Okay. That sounds good.
Good with that?
Yes, sir.
You gonna enjoy it tonight?
Yes, sir. I'm ready to go.
Meeting now?
Yeah, I got to do
tomorrow,
some.
right?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, boy, I love you, man.
Yeah, I love you too.
I'm banking on you.
Yes, sir.
You got me?
Smart man.
All right, buddy.
All right, we'll see.
That video,
Love it.
I'm really curious on how that video came together, by the way. And I'm on now the Belly Itcher Ale. It's a River Dogs one here for the local minor league base. Used to be a Yankees minor league team. I believe it's now, I think it's Tempe Ray minor league team. There you go, Dos Equis. I always get Dos Equis when I go out. Dos Equis Amber draft whenever I go to Mexican restaurants. The beginning part of that video is unbelievably strange because the way Daboll's talking, it's as if he's talking to somebody else. Yeah. We're going to bring Jackson in. You're talking to Jackson Dart, or somebody spliced that together. But the whole thing sounded like it's like he's in an interview with somebody else. We're going to bring Jackson in. We're going to bring him along slowly. We believe he can do it. Then he's like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." And I'm like,
I always thought he was like talking to like somebody like Kafka.
Yeah.
And then and like it's like a 3-way between like Kafka, Daboll, and Dart. and Kafka and Daboll are having that conversation, and Jackson's just along for the ride, and then and then he's finally like, "Yes, sir, yes, sir."
One more time, Kafka wasn't allowed to do anything by himself.
The only thing I thought that could possibly be was he was telling Jackson what they were going to tell the press. That's the only thing I could say, that this is the message that we're going to tell the press, that we're going to bring you along, blah, blah, blah. Because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
Did it surprise any of you the way it did me that he tells you, "I love you, man"?
Oh, yeah.
Like, the rest of the freaking team hears you telling the guy you just drafted that you love him.
I'm all in on it.
It's great. Let's go. Let's go.
I think it's perfect.
I think it's great. He's the good look, John, better or worse. He's our quarterback. So he's the quarterback.
I'm on board with him being in love with the fact that he got his quarterback. I just feel it's weird to tell him in a way that he hasn't done a damn thing for you yet. You're like, "I love you, man." It's almost like, please, you gotta save me.
John, it's almost like, hey, you always hear the old adage, if you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, you better love him. You know what I mean? Well, he took him in the first round, so obviously he really loves him.
He took that a little too far. You don't have to tell him you love him, by the way, Daboll. You can, taking him pretty much told you that you like him. I mean, love is a bit much.
It's a big word. It's a big word.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool because it just, like, he's probably been like saying, "Man, I freaking hate this Jones guy for so long that he's probably like, look, this is the first time in 5 years I've been able to say this. I am going to tell this cat I love him."
He told him, he's like, "I can promise you, I'm not going to throw a Surface Pro at your head. I promise. I promise. I won't do it."
And if we don't get this guy, they're going to stick me with Shador, and the guy can't figure out a goddamn thing on the whiteboard. So,
So with that, let's take this to be a little bit more serious about the situation. I thought it was weird. I thought it was funny. I'm all on board with the fact you picked your guy, right? You got your guy. We see the whiteboard thing. We saw the whiteboard thing last year. They weren't able to pull off anything to get those guys. I don't know how much I want to read into I think the whiteboard thing gets overplayed just a little bit. I mean, you ask them some pretty basic, retell me what I just told you kind of deal. And that's what these guys are trained to do. If you can't do it, Shador, that's probably why you dropped to the 5th round. But overall, though, something very interesting has happened very quickly. Even in OTAs, Dart got some time with the ones, and it was almost, I believe, equal to or possibly more than what Jameis Winston got. Does that make you think? And Eric, I'll start with you, and I know it's our show. I don't mean to do that, but you mentioned this before. You brought this up, so I'm going to ask you. Does this kind of hint that maybe that possibility that, goddamn, if Dart looks good in the summer, how much is Daboll going to want his guy playing for him sooner than we all thought?
I was shocked he took snaps with the first team today. No, only 3, but he took snaps with the first team. So I don't think it's impossible. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I don't think it's impossible that Dart starts this season. I think they're playing with a little bit of fire there, because I think it would be better for him to come off the bench at some point, because you and I have talked about this. If Dart comes in and looks bad from the get-go, and then you bench Dart for Wilson, that's bad. Whereas the other way around, it works out a lot better. So I still have a 2004 vibe with this. The whole thing with Eli and Kurt Warner type situation. So, but I will not be shocked if he looks like the best quarterback in camp, and they say, what are we waiting for? So, I know Chris Sims has said the same, and that doesn't mean he's right, but I think a lot of people are automatically assuming it's impossible for Jackson Dart to win the job. But I don't think it's impossible.
What about you, Chris? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think today was a little bit of a look-see, right? Look, curiosity. Let's see him roll with the 3s, ease him in, because you're going to have veteran mini camps. So he's going to probably get a few more snaps, maybe, and then you're going to go in the training camp. But I think it's more of like, trying to get a look-see and just see how he fits in, some chemistry with Neighbors and some of the other guys. But I think Russell Wilson does start the season. Giants need to get wins. His fan base is desperate for wins. But I can see Dart, if the season was lost at some point down the road, him now jumping Jameis and getting starts. However, I will say, if the offensive line is not giving the quarterback time, I don't think you put him in that much anyway, because I think it's all going to revolve around the offensive line later in the season. If the season is lost, you don't want him getting killed and his confidence being killed either. But I think as long as the Giants are in some sort of a running for a playoff spot, Wilson, I think we'll still keep the job. But yeah, I could see Dart, a mop-up duty, different spots. Yeah, possibly. Which begs the question, they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks on the active game day roster, right? You're not going to have him as an emergency 3. You'll probably have 3 on the active, unless you don't dress Winston at some point, and maybe you do move Dart to 2.
Craig?
Well, here's what I can tell you. For my opinion, my son turned me on to Jackson Dart 3 years ago when he transferred from USC. So I've watched a lot of Dart, and we're fans, right? We're fans. I'm flashing that jersey. I bought him that jersey. It was very hard to find 3 years ago because he didn't have an NIL deal when he transferred. He was nobody, right? Here's what I can tell you. Like he's not ready to start in the NFL, regardless of how good he looks in OTAs, mini camp, and regular camp. He's just not ready. And the reason why I can tell you that is because Lane Kiffin's offense, Lane did nothing to help this kid get better. He's purely playing on athletic ability, right? His footwork is not great in the pocket. It's almost kind of lazy in the pocket, right? He's a little bit of a gunslinger, right? He can throw small windows. So you'll see him try to throw that same small window 3, 4, 5 times in a row before he gets it, right? In the NFL, those go for pick sixes or they lose games. He's primed because of his body style and the way he plays. He's primed to just sit the bench and play behind Russell Wilson and learn how a Super Bowl winning quarterback plays. And he can learn to clean up. Because again, I don't blame like Dart did what he did really well. You have to remember, this cat threw for 11,970 yards, folks. Okay. He threw for 82 touchdowns in the SEC. Okay. But the offense didn't allow him to this like dynamic type of play behind the line, right? His footwork's not good. He kind of stands in the pocket a little bit. I don't think you're going to coach that out of him, that gunslinger, bad footwork thing. And I'm a fan. I mean, like I said, and I'm a guy rooting for him. I don't think you're going to coach that out of him in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks. I think you really just want to let him mature. I mean, and let him just learn, clean up all those things where he can maybe either, as Chris alluded to, if you're, in week 12 and you're out of it, maybe he could start the last 4 games. 100%. If they don't win, John and Eric, Chris, if they don't win 8 games this year, he's the starter day 1 next year.
Right.
But the issue that people don't want to talk about is that what if, that's a big thing, right? What if? What if they win 8 games? What if they win a wild card? What if they just miss a wild card? Russell Wilson could come back. He doesn't want to go out as a bum. Denver, Pittsburgh, the Giants. He doesn't want a crappy legacy. He wanted to be here last year. Russell Wilson probably said to these guys, hey, guys, if I win 8 games, if I go to the playoffs, we're putting a new deal on the table before this year's over. Like Russell Wilson has a goal. He understands he's probably got a max 2 years. But if he doesn't play really well, it's 1 and done, right? So there's a lot hinging on the fact is, can they coach Dart up, which they will try. I do not think he's ready to start, okay? But he brings a whole dynamic to the Giants that they haven't had in a long time, right? No, people, this isn't Zach Wilson because they're both from Utah. Don't lump him into this Utah bucket, Eric, I've heard people say it. He's the next, because nobody knows about him, right? Because they don't watch Ole Miss ball. They're like, he's another Zach Wilson. He is literally polar opposite.
Cy has brought that up as well, too.
Yeah,
so.
He's got moxie. He's got balls. He is a leader. He can run. He can throw. He throws great on the run.
I'm gonna do one of your.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that. I wanted to bring that up. The thing about him that I didn't know, Craig. I didn't know this. He's got an aura about him. So he's the anti-Daniel Jones in terms of personality.
Yeah. He's as close to Joe Burrow as you're going to get.
Sounds like a professional quarterback. I saw a video the other day, again, non-Giants fan, talking about how the Giants have improved this offseason. And one of the pictures they showed on the screen, again, this was a non-Giants fan, was the Daniel Jones bug-eyed look. He was bringing up that, and I don't know if you guys remember, that was Daniel Jones's first public appearance after Hard Knocks. That was the first time. And he looked shell-shocked. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just a bad photo. He was like that during the whole thing. But Daniel Jones always kind of seems sort of like kind of mousy and quiet. Jackson Dart, he may suck. I don't know if he's going to or not, but he's got an aura about him that he seems like he's going to be able to lead men.
Playing in the SEC, Eric. He's playing big games. And Dave, who definitely stole my comp, Dave, pound out for you. He is a bigger Baker Mayfield. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. So Eric, he's have to
cocky.
think.
He's a cocky motherfucker.
Yeah, but he's respectful. He's good. He gets it right. But here's the thing: this people don't watch Ole Miss football. The guy beat Jaden Daniels in 2023 Ole Miss versus LSU,
right,
with 5 touchdowns. Okay, 5 touchdowns to outgun Jaden Daniels. It's in him to play big games and to win big games. Have you seen him run over linebackers? He does it. You know,
he did it today. I don't know if you guys saw this. They were bitching about it on Big Blue Kickoff Live right before we came on. That one of the touchdowns that he scored today in practice, he dove for the pylon in an OTA, and they were like, "Stop doing, stop doing."
That's why I said, Eric, they're gonna have to coach some of that out of them, right?
Yeah.
Better footwork. Live to play another day. You heard the stat, Eric. He's never slid in a game in his life between high school and college.
I didn't know that.
He's
I
never,
didn't know that. I know he doesn't like to. I know.
That's scary.
But in theory, to be quite honest, Eli Manning never slid either. I don't know what the hell you called it. He fell. He did a crane. He did something.
The Daniel Jones.
Never an actual slide.
Let's be fair. And I'm as big an Eli Manning fan as there is, but we've seen Eli try to slide and fumble the ball.
All by himself.
Nobody around him. So I think if I can answer the question in a nutshell is, like, I'm not going to discount what Russell Wilson brings to the table. I don't, as much as, again, I've been watching this cat play for 3 years. Listen, and I don't know if his game is going to transfer to the NFL. I hope it does, right? But we've been rooting for this kid for 3 years. When people were making fun of me 2 years ago, I said, look, this dark kid's got something. They're like, what are you talking about? So now it comes to fruition. My son's bonkers bouncing off the wall that they move up, and he's texting me from his buddy's house. He's like, Dad, Giants are moving up for Jackson Dart. I'm like, dude, stop it. They're never going to do that. That's not what the Giants do. And it happens. So we're excited for him, but he just needs work, guys. He needs work. He has those intangibles that Jones didn't bring. Like as John was saying, like the deer in the headlights thing, my biggest thing with Daniel Jones is pull the damn trigger, dude. He's running wide open down the field. Pull the damn trigger. Dart will throw the Dart will throw it 4 times in the wrong spot. You know what Dart is? He's Tin Cup. Have you ever seen the movie Tin Cup?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's freaking Tin Cup. He's literally like, I missed it. I'm going for it again. So they need to coach that moxie or kind of bring it in.
Not too much, though. Not too much. I want some of that.
Hands down. You got it. Yeah. You're right.
But the problem with some of that is you can't coach it out of it in practice. He has to play in order for that to happen. My big thing with all of this is, again, I'm happy that they got Dart. I will stand by the honest piece that I said all along. Eric can back this up.
Oh God, not Milroe again.
I got to be honest. That's who I thought the Giants would get.
No.
That's who they might go back in the bottom of 1. By the way, Milroe's looking pretty freaking good in Seattle right now. That being said, right? I'm totally thrilled that we got Dart. I like Dart. I think he brings a lot. My concern though is the overabundance of love seems to be a bit much when you sign Wilson. You sign Winston. You've got 2 major veterans. The fact that you are kind of like showering this dude like you are begging him to go to the prom is a little it's a little much with a coach that has lacked. He's lacked the production on the field. It was a great feel-good story in 22. The wheels came off in 23, and there was infighting with him and Wink. I'm not a Wink person, so I'm okay with that Wink went, but I'm not naive to think that it was one-sided all Wink. They're clearly, because Daboll's rubbed other people the wrong way, and the coaching staff. Kafka's the biggest one. I keep joking about it, but it is really weird. We have an offensive coordinator that we then stripped him of his ability to do anything, but we won't let him leave either. So it's like the guy's a prisoner
today. He's back calling plays.
I mean, Kafka is basically the Jalen Hylett of coaches. I mean, we got him, but then we don't let him do anything. And I don't know if he's pissed at him or if he's not, if he's just bad. I have no idea. But I do know that the Giants kept him. So overall, what I'm thinking is this. So let me ask you this. We all gave opinions on what we think and where we're at and that. Is there let's go 10 games into the season. Is there a record that the Giants would be at that you go, if they're at this record, Dart's going to start playing? What would that record be?
10 games into the season?
10 games into the season.
And Chris, you can jump in.
Yeah, I'm going to go if the Giants were, but after the 10th game, if they were 3-7 going into week 11, I think then you see Dart. Once again, I think the offensive line has to be playing well, and you treat those games as preseason games going into 26. Now he's got 7 games under his belt. Not bad going into his real first full year with 7 real games under his belt. So, yeah, I would think maybe 3-7.
Okay.
I think I'm with Chris.
Okay.
You know, because you got 6 games left.
Right.
7
games left.
Yeah, 4 and 6 might be a little tight.
7 games left.
I know. I'm still getting used to 17. I know.
Yeah, right,
I mean, 4 and 6, 5 and 5 all feels like you're middle of the pack, right? So it'd have to be, and again, they have the hardest schedule in the league. It's going to have to be an abomination, but the Giants did lose 8 games by 1 score or less last year, and you bank that on a kicker and a quarterback. So if Gano is healthy and Russell Wilson is decent, I just think at the 10-game spot, they could be 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
This question would be easier to answer if the coaching staff wasn't on the hot seat. I want to say 5 and 5, and they're still in the playoff hunt, just like they were 5 and 4 with Kurt Warner. Because to me, that I want to address what Craig said, because Craig, I brought this up. To me, the kind of quasi nightmare scenario for the Giants, and this is going to sound completely insane, is if they're in the playoffs with Russell Wilson at their quarterback, because I do not want Mara saying we got to re-sign Russell Wilson. And
that's already been discussed, Eric. I guarantee you, he never came here on a 1-year deal. He sat down and said, "Look, I can go just make bank anywhere. If I win 10 games and go to the playoffs, I'm getting a new deal."
But the Giants have to agree to that. But the Giants have to agree to that.
I'll say this, right? Yeah. Of the veteran quarterbacks, Winston's the one with the 2-year deal. Wilson's one. And if Wilson takes the Giants to the playoffs, he becomes far more marketable on the free agent market where there's not going to be a lot of options in the offseason.
And I want to get a comp pick for him at that point, too.
So there's a possibility.
But I think Craig is not incorrect. I could see people in the Giants organization saying,
sure.
You know what? The same people that said, you know what? We got into the playoffs with Daniel Jones. We're going to bring Russell Wilson back. I feel like we're treading water. Right. Look, the Giants have made the gamble that for better or worse, that Jackson Dart is going to be their franchise quarterback. Yep. To me, the sooner we find out about that, the better. I do not want to waste another year on Russell Wilson. I don't think Russell Wilson's a bad quarterback, but he's not the future here. So in a way, I want the Giants to do well this year, but not well enough that they think, my God, we got to bring back Russell Wilson.
Because it's so funny because it's irrelevant to me. It's so irrelevant because Chris and I talk about this every single week. Like, it's been bad for so long, Eric.
Oh, I get it.
And I don't care anymore because here's the thing: Dart is in house for 5 years, right? So I'm like this.
Right.
If we win, we're all in a good mood and things are great, and we're like, yay! We got air in your lungs again. Sundays are fun again, right? So we all forgot how to have fun on Sundays.
Oh yeah, and there's a whole generation of.
Yep,
there's a whole generation of Giants fans that don't even know what that feels like.
Yep, we can crap on it all we want right now. John, put it in the book right now that the four of us get together on the 10th game of this season. Just put it in the book. We us four are going to get together on my show, your show, whatever it is.
Simulcast. Let's do a simulcast.
Because here's the thing, Eric, if they're winning, man, honestly, like throw out what it costs. Throw out if Wilson comes back. If they're winning, that's all we wanted. And you have a quarterback in-house.
Right.
Winston, trade him, I don't give a shit. All I know is if they're winning 10 games, Chris and I have just been sitting there like, man, remember when it was fun?
Right.
It's not fun anymore.
No, it's not. It's not even fun. It's horrible.
You know what it feels like at 2 a.m., Eric? 2 a.m. when you're in your pajamas and you're asleep. I'm still driving down the turnpike. Okay, home from these Monday night, Thursday night games. I'm exit 3 on the turnpike.
You forget the fact that I run a Giants website and I'm up to 2 in the morning updating the website after a Monday night loss.
I'm reading your website while I'm driving.
He means while he was stopped in traffic, not physically still moving.
But remember,
exactly. There's no traffic at 2 a.m., John. I'm doing everything to keep myself awake at 2 a.m. The point is, and I'll shut up, let's just win some games and then worry.
But I want to win. I want to sustain the winning. That's my issue. So in 2004, the Giants were 5-4, and they benched Kurt. And Kurt has not forgiven the Giants for that to this day. He was like crazy. He was mouthing off about it.
Now, Eric, if my memory serves, he had some fumble issues, some turnover issues. So I think that played a little bit, right?
But they were 5-4, and they were very much in the playoff. And the Giants didn't win another game until the last game of the year against Dallas. Yep. And it was bad. But the following year, the Giants won the NFC East. So I can't remember when's the last time we won the division? 2011, right? Did we win the division? We won the division that year, right? Not the wild card. When's the last year we won the division?
No, because when they won the Super Bowl, they were 10-6 and 9-7. So that didn't win you the division.
We did win.
2008?
No, we did win the division in 11.
I think we did.
All the teams were bad in 11 in the East.
I don't just want to get the wild card.
We beat Dallas to win the division.
I want to win the division. I used to
the JPP block field.
These pennants behind me. When I was a kid, I used to collect even the NFC East division champion pennants because to me, winning the division meant something too. And I wanted to win the NFC championship. And the great thing was, for the most part, except for 2000, when the Giants get to the.
Why are we worried though?
I'm not worried. I want the Jackson Dart era
not
to
you,
start.
the fans. The fan, like someone's in here like, I'm not going to wait 5 years. No one's talking about waiting 5 years. All we're saying is if they win 10 games and go to the playoffs, Russell Wilson's coming back.
It might be a Darnold situation too, Craig. Where
I wouldn't see. Here's the thing. I don't.
Might be it.
I wouldn't necessarily say that that's true. And I think part of it would rely on Wilson. We don't that Wilson would come back even if they do make the playoffs. We don't know what Wilson's agenda ultimately. Now, I do think New York is what he wants.
Yeah.
But the Giants have stuff in their back pocket right now, and that is we have the future of the guy that we want to actually be playing. Yep. So I'm going to change the subject slightly on Wilson, and let's move to Winston. Where does he factor in here? Let's say Dart looks really freaking good in the preseason, but
traded him.
But none of us want him to start. See, that's exactly what I was hoping we would hear. What do we all think? And Chris, let's hear from you. The rest of us talk a whole lot. Let's hear from you. What do you think? Where do you think the Giants are going to go with Winston? First, if Dart looks really well, where do you go? And then in general, let's just say Dart looks like the average rookie quarterback. What do you think Winston's role is going to be? And would the Giants consider ever moving him in place of Wilson?
Well, I believe the trading deadline's like November 1st. So I think starting out the season, Winston's going to be the 2, Dart will be the 3. But I think as the season goes along, as you get closer to November and that trade deadline, if a quarterback were to go down with a potential playoff team and they're throwing the Giants some draft picks and something worthwhile, I think Winston could be on the trading block, and then you move Dart to 2. As the season moves along, if that's not the case, I think Winston could be the 3rd or possibly inactive as we get later in the season, depending on the record. So I think it could go 2 ways. I think eventually, as we get closer to the end of the season, Dart could move up to the 2. And like you mentioned, John, Jameis has a 2-year contract. So regardless, if they don't move him, I think Jameis comes back as the backup next year if Wilson is gone to Dart.
I think I want to just add one thing because Chris brought it up earlier and it ties in with what he just said. One of the big issues here is, do the Giants have 3 quarterbacks active on game day? I don't think they do. So if Jackson Dart starts off as the number 3 quarterback and he's the 3rd quarterback and he's inactive and he's the emergency quarterback, which means he can play if
he's on the
at some point, you don't want him to be that guy. You would think if he's progressing during the season. So Chris brought this up earlier. This ties in with how many quarterbacks do you? It's really difficult for teams to have 3 active quarterbacks on game day because you're giving up a special team spot.
Chris, I was going to ask you, do you agree with this premise that Dart can't be the 2 if you have any plans at all that if something happens to Wilson, you would play Winston? Because if Dart's the 2, the second he hits the field, you can't take him off and put one of the veterans in because you've now potentially tanked his career with the Giants. Once you put him in, he's kind of going to be the guy you got to ride with for a while. You can't go rookie, veteran, and then we'll bring the rookie back. That's a Zach Wilson situation. It never gets better.
And that's why I really believe, listen, DeVito's going to get cut. He'll end up on the practice squad possibly. But I think the 3 on game day, I really think all 3 are dressed. I don't think you're going to have an inactive 3rd quarterback.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I think Dart needs to sit as the 3 starting out. And if he moves to the 2, that's it. He'll be the 2. He won't leave that spot. But I think game day, the headset on, looking at the iPad, preparation. I think all that stuff sometimes gets overlooked, and it's all about getting them on the field and running plays. No, because it's all vanilla in preseason. Nobody's scheming up defense against the offense like a game day in the first week of the season. So I think to Dart's benefit, not to ruin him, like a la Jets, don't throw him out there. Let him soak up with him. How to treat game day, just with warm-ups, right? How do you go out there and warm up on game day prior to kickoff? I mean, those little things, not much gets talked about. So I think I want to see him soak that all up for as long as possible for this entire year. And if he moves from the 3 to the 2, that's where he stays. It's not a back and forth thing.
Chris, what if Jackson Dart looks awesome in the preseason? Could you see him become the number 2 right off the bat? The concern I have with that, Eric, is that if he's playing in preseason, he's playing against 3s. He's not playing against 1s that are all on the field, and they're not scheming up a regular defense like week 1. Yeah. So although he may light it up and look great, the bullets will be flying for real week 1 or whenever he gets in there. And I just, I don't want to ruin him. I don't want to ruin him. One more caveat. So today they had him play 3 snaps against the 1s with the 1s.
Baby feed.
What if that continues throughout summer training camp where they up that more and more and he's still looking pretty darn good? Are you saying that you don't, again, I'm not trying to put you on a spot. I'm trying to work this out in my own mind too. Is there a scenario where Jackson Dart's the number 2 quarterback on this team?
I do believe that. I believe he could be the number 2, but I also believe you have to spoon feed him, baby feed him, and not rush him through the process. Because once again, command of the huddle, calling the plays, getting it in from the sideline, looking at the play clock. All these intangibles don't get talked about enough, right?
Yeah.
So
he doesn't take snaps from center in college. He's got to get used to taking snaps.
There you go. That's the whole right. That's college in general, right?
Yeah.
So
and that's why I said before, his footwork's just not there. His footwork's not there, and it's going to take a while.
And Craig, that's a huge part of people say, what's the big deal about taking a snap from center? It's not just the snap from center; it's the drop back. It's the footwork on the drop back. They're not used to. They're not used to setting up and getting back there like that. That's
when we had Dave on, Garrick, from our lads, who's a Senior Bowl analyst. He said he had never seen a quarterback look so bad than Jalen Milroe at the at the Senior Bowl because he just could not get under center and drop into a 5-step drop or run play action out underneath center. He goes, and he should just be able to do it because he's an athlete and he can't. He's like, it's clunky.
Hey, no reason to shit on my Jalen Milroe, okay? I mean, come on now. By the way,
your quarterback can't even drop back, John.
By the way, I was the guy in preseason when we had Cy on who called that Cam Ward would be the surprise quarterback and who ultimately was the #1 pick. So I'm just saying, but I still like Jalen Milroe. Let's not shit on him.
No, and I'm not crapping on him. It's actually at all. It's interesting. This isn't a negative on anyone. You know what it is? It's maturation process.
Right.
If Jalen Milroe stays in school, he's the #1 pick next year, right? It's just the maturation process and the system that you play in. Like, they don't teach them. Like, look, they walk in and they're college ready or they're not. They're pro ready or not. Jackson Dart is not Andrew Luck. Okay.
Right.
And he's going to need some, as Chris said, some massaging. He's going to, they're going to spoon feed him slow to get him along because one of your guys, Optimus in the chat said Jordan Love sat for 2 years. And I still don't think Jordan Love's a top 8 quarterback, but he's still a good quarterback and he can make the playoffs. So sometimes these guys just need to learn the game. Today is, hey, we're millennials. We have no patience. Hey, we need to get something now. We need to win tomorrow. If you don't win today, you suck tomorrow. Like, there is something for learning the game. Well, Jalen Milroe.
The Giants have shown way too much patience. We kept Daniel Jones. We knew he sucked for years.
That's an anomaly, though. That's an anomaly, right? I'm just saying in general, Jalen Milroe, the kid's wicked talented. If he just stayed in school, and I said this to his detriment. Again, you want to talk about system, John? Check this out. At the end of the season, Jalen Milroe had 47% less attempts, okay, than 44 other NCAA quarterbacks. I'm talking about the quarterback from Toledo. I'm talking about the quarterback from Coastal Carolina. What does that say? That the coach is not letting this guy get enough experience. Attempts are experience. You got to learn to become a leader of men, and you got to learn these things. So Jalen Milroe goes back to school. He's the #1 pick next year, and they coach all that crap out of him.
So let's put all of you. Well, I will put all of you on the spot. Of these scenarios that I'm about to say, which one are you more inclined to say will happen? 1, Jackson Dart does more of a Patrick Mahomes rookie season, sits, only plays in week 17, move on from there. 2, Jordan Love sits for 2 years. We don't even see him. 3, Eli Manning 2004, midseason, regardless of record, whether we had a winning or losing record, by midseason, the Giants transition to Dart. Of those 3, which one do you think is more likely? And Chris, I'll start with you.
Didn't you say you just had them say that the record matters, though.
Can we give us a record?
Asking you. I'm saying to you, 3 because for Eli, the record didn't matter.
Right, but you didn't give them the option that the record matters.
Okay, well, fine. If you 4th option, the Giants shit the bed. It's kind of the same thing, dude. Either way.
No. If it's like what Craig was saying earlier.
But I only gave you 3 choices.
Playoff hunt, and you've said this too, John, earlier in an earlier episode. If the Giants,
I'm not switching them up.
It's a different story than if they're.
I know, but I didn't get to answer that. But I gave you 3 choices, but you want 4.
Okay.
Because you're of today's world, and we got to have 4. 4 choices, 4 of us.
Yes,
the Giants completely shit the bed, and that's when Jackson Dart midseason sees. So which of those 4 scenarios do you see happening?
Well, I have confidence that Giants won't shit the bed. I think even with the schedule, but I do feel like at some point he will get in a game or 2. So I'm going to lean towards scenario 1. Maybe it's not the last game. Maybe it's the 16th game because I don't know if the Giants will make the playoffs, but I do feel like at the end of the season he will get some playing time.
But you're going with the Pat Mahomes.
I'll go with the Pat Mahomes approach, whether it's 1 or 2 games end of the season.
I'm laughing only because Optimus has called it out pretty accurately. I'm like, damn, I gotta eat after this.
Perfect.
pour 4, and he gave us 3 options.
I'm working on it. What the
4
hell?
is the drinks, not the number of choices. But I now gave you 4. So, God damn it. All right. So, all right, Craig, for you. You basically really, it sounds like you don't really see Dart seeing the field, or at least don't want to. But of those scenarios, what do you see happening?
Option 1.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, to me, it's if he's in this, whatever we all make fun of, the full bloom love or whatever we make fun of that scenario, they give Russell Wilson every chance possible to take him to the playoffs. But of the 3 you've given me, I don't see him sitting for 2 years. I don't see them throwing him in week 8. I just think that would be a catastrophe. You'll ruin the kid. He's just not there. So I'm going option 1.
Eric?
That's fair. I think the 2 most fascinating stories of this year are how well does the defense play, and when do they make the switch at quarterback, and if they make the switch at quarterback. I think that's going to be fascinating, even again for non-Giants fans to watch. How does this defense play, and when does Jackson play? I listen to our guests, and I want to say what they're saying. And John, I think you're leaning in that direction too. I think you're leaning towards the Mahomes. I think Daboll loves Jackson Dart, and I think he's going to look for any excuse to play him this year. So I'm going to go with they're going to play him probably. We have a late bye. I think he's going to play after the bye. I think he's going to play the last 4 or 5. What is that? 4 games after? Do we have 4 games after the bye? 4 or 5 games after the bye.
Yeah.
I think that's when he's going to play. And I'm not sure the record matters. I think it'll be tough because it's different than 2004 because Tom Coughlin was a rookie coach and he had leeway. I agree with Craig to a certain extent here that Daboll's in a way different position here, and the Giants have sucked for a long time here. So the pressure will be on to try to get into the playoffs if they're anywhere remotely decent. But I think there's full bloom love on the part of Daboll with Jackson Dart. And I think he wants to play him.
So
that's my gut feeling.
So my thought is this. I think Joe Shane is in a different position than Brian Daboll. I think Joe Shane secured his spot of coming back after this year when he had what can be considered an unbelievably good draft. We don't know that it's going to play out that way, but when you think about the guys the Giants were potentially targeting and thinking about, Alexander, Bo, Scattaboo, right? Any of those guys could have been second-round guys, could have been their third-round guy, could have been, and they got them all in a way that said they played the draft very well, and we got Carter. We got Carter.
They got a bit lucky too.
And again, that kind of you know what?
You make your own luck too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you really think it through a way, you say, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go beyond that. I'm not going to risk more." Right? It's like, I know you hate this, Eric, but it's like gambling. If you know you're going to play certain things and you say, I'm not betting more than this. This is all I'm playing with. This is it. I win, I lose, whatever, but I'm only using this. And you win, great. If you lose, you walk away and you go, I didn't do anything else that I wasn't going to do. The Giants didn't overreact. They didn't do things. So I think Shane's on a different path than Daboll is. So this is where it gets interesting. I'm with you, Eric. I think Daboll is completely in love with Dart. But I'm with Craig. If the Giants are winning, yeah, right, exactly. If the Giants are winning, you're not stepping away from that like 2004. Why? Because Daboll has to win. Now, I think
see that. Yeah, I can see that's where I'm having a trouble is I agree with you. So, but a part of me says,
well, it's almost like a split personality, right?
Yeah.
Daboll has 2 trains of thought.
Yes.
I have to win, but this guy is my way of staying here at the same time.
Yes.
I think we talked about this
because remember, he picked Dart. He picked Dart.
I'm clearly yelling, which my wife tells me when I drink, I start yelling.
Makes us show exciting, though.
Exactly, right? I do think that the Giants laid their cards out in the offseason about what they really were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
The first part was when John Mara openly said, right? He said, we got to fix this. We're bringing people back. We've got to fix the quarterback. We got to fix the defense, right? Then Joe Shane came out, and what did he say? He talked, thank you, it's all good. He talked immediately and said, we're going to look at signing people. We're going to look at trades. He even used the word trade. That was Matthew Stafford. We all know it. Eric and I knew it back in the fall. We knew that was on the table then. It came back again. Unfortunately, Stafford basically, I don't think the Rams did. I think Stafford used the Giants to decide whether or not I'll take more money or I'll take the security. The Giants offered more money, just so people understand. I don't think the Rams played the Giants. Stafford played the Giants. He could have had more money. He chose not to. The Giants then went for Aaron Rodgers. Don't kid yourself. Wilson was not the next step. Rodgers was the next step. Rodgers, by the way, is still dicking every other team around in the NFL right now. And if you're Pittsburgh, you're going, God damn it, we're stuck with Mason Rudolph if this dude doesn't show up. So the Giants get Wilson, but they got Wilson right after they got Winston. They went 1-2. That said, we're gonna basically fill this quarterback room with 2 veteran quarterbacks who have proven they can play in this league. We want a guy, but we're not gonna take him at 3. We're not going to be forced to take a guy at 3 unless he's Cam Ward, and he's not there, so we're not doing that. So then they go and get their guy at the bottom, and they don't give up as much as a lot of people worried they were. But I don't think they're married. I don't think Joe Shane and John Mara are married to having to play Dart. If they're winning, they're going to stick with Wilson. So this long diatribe that I just went on is going to lead me to go, I think Dart doesn't play until 16 or 17.
Wow.
17, 18, or whatever. I know it's the weeks are different than the number of games. The final 2 games of the season, I think the Giants are going to be, if the Giants are, let's say I gave 10 games, right? If they're 4-6, the back half of the schedule is better than the first half of the schedule in terms of, at least right now, strength of schedule. We play teams that are beatable in the second half of the season versus some of the teams we play early on. So if they're 4-6, they're in the playoff hunt. If you think, 4-6, you're not. Look at the way the league was last year. You absolutely are. The 7th wild card team, you're in the playoffs. You're in the playoff run. I don't think they switched then. I agree with Chris. I agree. I don't know, Eric, if you said the same. Craig, you said the same thing.
No, you guys are. The 3 of you are. And again, you're an outstanding chance the 3 of you are right. But the 3 of you are basically saying the Pat Mahomes route.
I'm saying that Daboll has to win. And if Wilson is winning, you can't move off from that. Now, I will say the wild card in this is, what do the Giants do with Winston? Because, Eric, you keep bringing it up, and I think you're onto it a little bit more. Here's where my problem is. If you keep Wilson and Winston and Dart's not seeing the field. The reason is, the second you do that, we have the issue that we had last year. When you put DeVito in and he sucked, you couldn't go back to Jones. You were never going to play him. So Jones was done. He's gone.
Well, but they did that stupid thing, though. They brought DeVito in, and they went to Locke. And when DeVito was healthy again, they didn't go back to DeVito. And then Locke, And Locke won the Colts game.
Well, again, but that's a whole different. That's a different. I know.
And that's why, John, you wait till week 15, and then you move him up to 2.
Exactly, because if now you do that, or he has shown enough that Winston is tradable. But if Winston's on the roster, Dart is the 3, no matter what, because the second he goes on, the fans are on it, the fans are behind it. You can't switch off from him, or you've killed his career too early. Once he's the starter, he's it. The Giants in 2004, they put Eli in. They were in a playoff run. They lost a close game to Atlanta that they could have won, by the way. And I think if Kurt Warner had played, they would have won the game.
How about the Pittsburgh game? That was another one.
The Pittsburgh game. Well, I was getting to that one afterwards. No, you're fine. The Chicago game, they could have won. They didn't. Eli did not play well. Pittsburgh was the first game that Eli looked really good. By the way, who was the wide receiver that really tore it up that day? And unfortunately, Jamar Taylor. God damn it. I knew you would know that.
Where everyone was freaking out was when he had a 0.0 quarterback.
That was the Ravens against the Ravens.
And by the way, I ran into Archie Manning in the men's room at Giant Stadium. He was a wreck. Absolutely.
You were there?
Oh, my God.
I ran into him at the men's room walking out. I shook his hand. He was so nervous.
All I did was for the game review with the picture of him, I went 0.0.
But that Pittsburgh game, that was the one that showed you this dude can play.
Right.
And then the Dallas game was the win. But that team was so they were that team of 2004 was really the 22 Giants. If the Giants had yanked Jones off the field and moved, we probably would have ended up maybe 6-11, 7-10. We wouldn't have made the playoffs, but we kept Jones in. We made the playoffs. The Giants kind of got there, but they weren't ready yet. They weren't ready. That 04 team was not ready yet, and Kurt Warner would have just delayed the inevitable of Eli playing.
Maybe.
But I don't think Kurt Warner and Russell Wilson are equivalent, because quite frankly, Kurt Warner was kind of until he moved on and then got with
Arizona,
a really good Cardinal team. You know what I mean?
You know there's a scenario you haven't talked about that's the least likely scenario, and it's the get rid of the safety net scenario. That before the trading deadline, they trade Russell Wilson.
Or Jameis, right? Yeah, either one.
No way.
So, and I think it's the least likely. But if Jackson Dart is lighting it up, and Daboll says screw it, I want to use stronger language. But he says screw it, and I want to go with my guy. And Winston's on a 2-year deal. Russell's on a 1-year deal. A quarterback goes down somewhere in the league, and somebody wants a quarterback, and they offer a 3rd-round pick for Russell Wilson. And no one wants Winston. That's I don't think it's going to happen, but that's the other scenario. I'm just going.
Yeah,
that means it'd be like 2-7, 2-6.
I know,
it'd be really bad.
The quarterback who lit it up today on 4 passes, it was Tommy DeVito. He had 4 passes, 1 was dropped, 3 were touchdowns. So all 3 to the same wide receiver. It was Bly from Gardner Webb University.
Yeah.
The UDFA no one's talking about.
Yeah, Dre Bly's son, matter of fact.
Yes, Dre Bly's son.
The Giants were playing cover 0, and by cover 0, I mean they didn't actually have anybody on defense.
Hey, John, could I add one thing, John? What you were just saying?
You can do whatever you need to.
All right, cool. So before Dart was drafted, I said, and we said this on the show, Craig, I said Daboll probably has to win 7 games, 8 games to save his job. Now that Dart's drafted with the Giants, I feel like that's kind of pivoted now to 5 games. I feel like as long as Daboll wins 5 games and the locker room doesn't turn and they don't give up, he's coming back. I think I think it's a little different now too with the wins. As long as the locker room doesn't quit on them and there's no turmoil and they're playing hard, I think 5 wins even because of Dart.
And just to be sure though, are you saying that with Dart not seeing the field, or if he sees the field, 5 wins gets?
I think either way.
I don't think it matters.
It's interesting because I'm going to be the one of the 4 of us that's going to go. Can't if they don't win 7 games and Dart doesn't see the field, then I think Daboll's gone.
Then why did you draft Dart?
That's my point, though. If Dart gets on the field, that buys you losses for Daboll. If you don't play him and you lose games, you've got 2 veteran quarterbacks. You've got the best player in the draft in Abdul Carter. You signed a bunch of you spent a ton of money on your secondary. You've got all this shit. And let me be more clear. If they don't win X number of games and that offense still averages 15 points a game and Dart doesn't see the field, then I think Daboll's gone, because you're not losing anything at that point.
What if you have a top?
Dart never played.
What if you have a top 10 defense?
Right,
this gets complicated.
And then you have to look at the midway, the record halfway through. If they're 4-6, and then kind of at the end, it falls apart.
There's a plan. There is a plan in place that none of us know about. This unwritten rule that things happen. Like, for instance, Eric was talking about, trading Winston, trading Wilson. Wilson. I can almost guarantee him sitting down as an adult and being like, guys, I wanted to be here last year. You didn't let me come in. I'm not coming if you're drafting a quarterback. He knows they need a young quarterback. I'm not coming if you're drafting a quarterback and you're benching me by week 10. I'm coming here to win. I want to sign and be here, but God knows that you guys, we have an understanding that if I win 8 games, I want a second deal. There's a lot of unwritten stuff going on here that we're never we don't think that stuff happens, but it just does. There's a respect for who Russell Wilson is, bringing him in. They're also saying, man, we effed up last year. We should have brought you in last year. So he has a little bit of an upper hand there. And all he's saying is, look, just don't do me dirty. If I win games, you bring me back. The franchise is excited that we're winning games. Great. It also is they're never going to like they've already gone over these scenarios about getting rid of Jones, not getting rid of Jones. Like they're not going to let Dart have the same thing. Another head coach and another offensive coordinator in year 2. Like that's not going to work. They're going to play this one close to the vest. They're going to stick by what normally works. Drafting Dart keeps Daboll here for the 25 and the 26 season. And if they win, I would just, again, not saying I want it to be this way. I just know that there was a legit conversation. Russell Wilson's not dumb. He knows they're going to try to draft a QB in the second or the third round at least. And he's like, look, I just want an understanding. If I sign this contract and I win 8 games, I'm going to be having my agents calling you for a new deal.
Does it concern any of you? And we'll try to wrap. We've gone quite a while.
We'll
wrap it up. Does it concern any of you that the fact is Wilson talked to the Giants last year? They didn't sign him. He went to Pittsburgh, and then he actually comes back to the Giants. That nobody else, who there are quarterback needy teams, including the team he was on, which Craig, you've kind of listed out why he didn't go back there.
Yeah.
Does it concern you at all that it didn't seem like anybody else wanted Russell other than the Giants?
I don't think we're ever going to really know. You know what I'm saying? Like those are those things nobody ever really knows. No one knows who wanted him, who didn't want him, right? We just know that like he wanted to be here last year. So he might have been like this. We'll never know that he doesn't make this call to his agent. I'm going to the Giants. I wanted to be there last year. This is where I'm going to end my career. I'm going to win. And what we're going to talk about is if I win games, do I get a year or 2? 2 years, I retire. I go into broadcasting right here in New York, and my wife, has a record deal and blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of stuff that are in play. We're just never going to know about.
I mean, the guy threw 28 touchdown passes 2 years ago with Denver, and it got all crazy with Peyton. But the guy didn't have a bad year, as everybody makes it out to be. 28 touchdowns in Denver. But I think last year the mistake that Daboll made is you had a guy coming off the ACL injury in Jones, and you wouldn't allow Russell Wilson to compete for the job. And I think that was the mistake. That's why he walked away.
And not just Daboll, the whole organization. Okay. They told him, they said, you're not going to compete for the starting job. So of course he's going to go to Pittsburgh, where he could compete with the starting job. Look, sometimes this works out. I don't think anyone really wanted Kerry Collins either. And it worked out really well for the Giants in that. So we'll see with Russell Wilson. The only kind of negative thing I have with Russell Wilson, and John and I have talked about this before, he comes off a little fake. And I wonder if that's
manufactured.
I wonder if that sort of has played well with certain veterans. But today
it would have happened if you had Aaron Rodgers too.
Yeah. But today it's funny. They're kind of throwing Daniel Jones under the bus when they say this, but when the players come out and talk about Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, like they did today, they say, man, it's nice to have some professionals in the room. And it's like, wow, it's like, I wonder what they're comparing that to, who they're comparing.
But Jones was, again, at the end of the day, Jones was like like he learned everything from Eli. First one in, last one out, say the right thing. Everything about Jones was great, except for being able to throw touchdown passes.
Right,
like, it's all good except for between the goal line and the goal line.
Yeah. Yeah, like listen, the guy could run, the guy could throw, the guy was big, he was good with the media, he was good off the field. Jones had everything going for him except that he just could not pull the trigger and throw the freaking ball. He held the ball too long, right? He could not hit open receivers. He's seeing ghosts, he's taking sacks. Everything else about him was professional. But now we've got 3 guys in there that are Winston will throw 40 interceptions in a year and he don't give a crap.
Yeah.
Winston's throwing the ball whether you like it or not. I'm not even sure he sees a receiver and he just throws the ball. You know what I mean? Like Wilson's like this. I'm sure Wilson goes to this, coach. I want to let you know if we have 70 snaps, I'm throwing the ball 45 times whether you like it or not. I mean, he's just going to throw it. And then we got new kid and we got Super Bowl winning MVP. So it's just about execution. Our offense should be able to execute. The defense is good enough to get off the field finally on third down and give the opportunity to a average offense. And it is an average offense, but it'll be more dynamic because you should be able to get off the field on third down and give more opportunity to those quarterbacks.
I am curious to see what is Darius Slayton like with a legit quarterback. What is Wan'Dale Robinson like with a legit quarterback? Are they below average? Are they above average? What kind of
I
wide
think they're
receivers?
exactly the same.
Well, I want to see what they are with, because if they are above average and we get decent quarterback play, this will be a good offense. And the Giants seem to be betting on that, but we'll have to see. So
I'll say Darius Slayton, you probably already saw his best, and his best was when Jones's rookie year with Pat Shurmur. You
I'll
can
take
always
that 8 touchdowns. I'll take
I,
that. from
no.
Darius
What I'm
Slayton.
going to say there is you can always. The big question with Jones will always be what happened when Pat Shurmur went away from the guy. His biggest problem was he fumbled the ball a lot and he would throw interceptions. But the dude was throwing it down the field for.
He's a
for
different
passes.
quarterback. He was completely different quarterback.
Once Judge came on board, everything changed for him. And I don't know if it became he became Chuck Knobloch.
He also hurt it. He also hurt his neck.
Twice
Jason
on the neck
Garrett.
too. Exactly.
Jason
So,
Garrett, yeah.
all right. So with that, I think we've gone quite a
we've
while.
gone
The
way
Core
over.
Four has been
Thank
awesome.
you guys.
Real quick again, let everybody know, guys, where they can get your stuff.
NYGiantsRush.com's got all the content and the articles. We are live every Monday at 8:00. We usually interview a beat reporter or a player. The YouTube channel, Giants Rush, that's where all the interviews are. It's everything from Micah McFadden to Carl Banks to Dane Belton to Kurt Warner. They're all up there. The interviews are up there. And then we've got a whole crew of guys. You got Chris, which is Carb Crush. We got Joker Rush. We got Alex Middleton down in Texas. We got Spartan Mike, who you guys are probably familiar with. And we got The Truth. And then, of course, myself. So if you guys can give us a follow. Actually, more than anything, guys, the YouTube channel is always the most important. If you could just hit us with a subscribe, that would go a long way. And thanks, John and Eric, for having us.
Thank
you guys are always really good to us. We're glad you guys are, you're in the bowl of soup.
Great time.
With us, and, we'll do more stuff anytime you want us.
And just to plug you guys too, that you don't need it, but like you said, you've got a small army of people. And so the first time I checked out your channel, I kept checking out your videos. I'm like, how many people are on this channel? And then your production values are fantastic. Your intro's awesome. You have a fantastic show. And
Eric, it just allows me not to have to work that hard because I've been doing this too long. So now I'm like,
awesome,
I'm always like, somebody else do this. I don't want to do it.
We finally have somebody. Yep.
We just got to get the team. Imagine the fun we all have if the team just starts winning again.
Eric, they've been bad since I've been doing this, Eric. They've been bad since I literally started this in 2012.
God damn, it's all your fault.
It is.
Perfect timing, Craig.
Yeah, I know. This is what happened.
Tell anybody that.
He blew it when the stock was high.
I was the featured columnist for Bleacher Report. Okay.
Yeah.
I was the Giants featured columnist for Bleacher Report. Turner came in and bought it and said, "Fire everybody because we're not paying anybody. We want free writers." And I was like, "F you! I'll do this on my own. I don't need Bleacher Report."
Right.
And then I made Rush, and then Plaxico Burress shot himself in the leg, and then it all went downhill since.
Oh, God. No, trust me. We talk about it. I know I this is the beer probably, but I shoot myself in the foot over and over again about when we started this. There was no such thing as this. We did online radio, and the Giants actually worked with us. We had Jerry Reese. God damn it, he was the general manager of the goddamn team. We got to interview him.
Amazing.
And then we both had other shit. I had a lot of other stuff going on.
We had a lot of shit going on.
And so, we went, and it was hard because it wasn't making anything. It wasn't doing anything. We were doing it for fun, and we're doing it for fun now. It's not like it pays for anything. I have a day job, but I would love to be able to do Blog Talk Radio. That's exactly it, Optimus. I had a radio. I had my own show on terrestrial radio. I moved away from that. We started this. It was so much fun to talk to some of your heroes back when they were even younger than they are today. When Phil Simms, and we've told this story numerous times, but Phil Simms, they gave us a very specific, a finite amount of time. His rep, I don't know if he had some sort of a speaking engagement or something coming up, and they wanted to promote it slightly, and they said, "You got X amount." I want to say it was 15 minutes. It might have been 11 minutes. I don't know.
It was short.
It was very short. I kept reminding him, I'm like, I know we only have, he's like, no, but we were able to talk. Eric and I can talk so passionately about the
awesome.
day back in the day. Right. And I described the scenario of him standing in the tunnel with, it was with him and Harry Carson, and they were kind of looking out, and Sims was hurt. Carson was on the end of it. He was injured. He was done that year. Martin was going to retire. And when we got done, he was like, man, you guys really know this stuff. And I'm like, I know you got to go. He's like, no, we'll keep going. He stayed for 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Kept him on.
It was like Craig and Chris, like when you guys were at the game and you'd said you were talking about the Hyatt story earlier, but you were there. So when you told you, and we've had other people on, but when you told them these stories, these guys know, wow, these guys were actually there, because I remember what they're talking about. So that was kind of cool. So they like talking to real fans. So
Eric, we had such a laugh. Like John was just saying, we had such a laugh with Chase Blackburn. He's got like 4 boys, and he promises them to take them to like some minor league baseball team, right?
Yeah.
So him, his wife, and these 4 kids he has, these boys, these 3, I can't remember, it's 3 or 4, he takes them to the game. And he realizes he books the interview on the same time. So he's out in the parking lot, right? While the wife and the kids are inside, right?
Right.
And he's talking to us. I'm like, Chase, I really think you should go. He's like, no, this is awesome. He's like, I love talking to like real Giants fans. So he was really going to give me 20 minutes. He was on for an hour and a half. And he's like, my wife's probably going crazy right now, trying to corral 3 boys in that baseball stadium. He's like,
we've all been there.
Yeah. But he was like, same scenario. He's like, but he's like, I just appreciate you guys know football, you know, Giant stuff. And then like, he literally came on every year as a player. Then when he became a coach in Carolina, when he became a coach in every year, we used to sponsor the Chase Blackburn golf outing, all on the premise of that we just knew football.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you see with Harry Carter, with Sims realizes like, oh, John and Eric, you know what the heck they're talking about? They'll always give you the time because you're not knuckleheads, because there's a lot of knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Well, we again, and I don't have to tell you guys, if you just don't talk just about the things that everyone always brings up. Oh, you were so good in the Super Bowl, that kind of thing. But we were talking about stuff that happened earlier in his career, and he was like, I can't, I don't believe you guys remember that, stuff like that. So it's just,
and let's be honest, the BBI, you guys bring so much credibility with BBI. I mean, that's every Giant fan knows it.
Well, that goes both ways, because some people are so mean about the players too. They get pissed.
But that's not you guys.
Show up at training camp sometime, and somebody would be like I remember, I bring this up all the time. Lance Scott wanted to hunt down somebody on the site because people were being mean to him on the site, and it's like,
but they rushed inside, and Lance missed him like always. So anyway, no, I'm kidding, Lance, if you're still out there. No, but it's funny too, because we talk about it. I mean, I've reached out to a lot of guys, and I have a lot of connections now with guys. I think the thing with us, and I keep kicking myself that we didn't try to tell Leonard to turn his camera on when we had him. But when I shared the piece from Perry Williams to him, because I knew Leonard called me this is a funny story, true story. I literally got done. I've been reaching out to Leonard, and Leonard had mentioned to me that he would come on the show with us at some point in time, right? So I got done doing stuff, and I think Eric and I had recorded something. I can't even remember. I got done something. I went downstairs. I turn on my TV, and I go to YouTube, and I bring up some Leonard Marshall highlights. And I was telling my daughter Nashima, I was like, "This is a guy that we're trying to talk to, right?" The second the video started playing, my phone starts ringing, and it's Leonard Marshall calling me. And I'm like, weird. What are the chances that you would start a video? But so I get on the phone with him. He's like, I want to do it. I want to arrange it around when they're going to announce, my spot. He goes, I'd like to do that. If you could do that. I said, sure, we could do that. And then he was busy telling me at that time we talked, he's like, the guy that really should be represented up there is Perry Williams. He goes, I've talked, Perry and I have been teammates. That guy did this and this and this all 10 years, blah, 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 blah. So I reached out to Perry, and I was like, can you listen, Leonard's going to be inducted. Just would love to have, if you could just give me just a blurb, just something about Leonard from you. And I want to read it to him, and I'll share it at the end. I finish, and then he's like dead silent. And I'm like, and his camera's not on. So we're like, oh shit. I'm like, oh, we lost him. He's like, no. And I was like, oh my God, we made him cry. I was like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
shit. I was like,
No.
that to me was like, that was like such an awesome moment because it was so real. We gave him something. We could have just asked him about this team and that team and which is better. And
Generic, yeah.
we
Yeah.
did, but we gave him something else that was kind of important, which I'm trying to do the same thing with Carl. I have one piece already and I'm waiting for one more, and I am swinging for the fences on the one more. I've just been trying my way to get through. I get through to people. This one's going to be a tough one, but I
it's
did
not
get one.
easy. Can I make you guys laugh for 30 seconds?
You can make me laugh. I think so. I've had a lot to drink. So go for it.
All right. So during that Blackburn interview, one of the Blackburn interviews, he told us about his stint with the Rams. Okay. So Spagnuolo becomes the head coach, right? And calls him and says, hey, I know you're on the shelf. I want you to come try out. And he's like, oh, coach, that would be great. He's like, when do you need me? He's like, I'll go book a flight. He's like, I need you here in like 4 hours. And he's like, what? He's like, 4 hours. He's like, just go right to the airport right now, buy a ticket and get here. And he's like, so, freaked out, right? Because everything in the NFL is done for you in advance and all this stuff. He literally like hangs up the phone with the coach. He runs inside, grabs a gym bag, throws in some clothes, drives to the airport, walks in, buys a ticket, and flies out. He realizes when he gets to the facility, it's a wet day. It's raining. He's got Spags there. He's got the GM there, and he's got the defense coordinator there, and the linebacker coach there, right? And they want him to do like a 3-cone drill. They want him to do a 40, right? They want him to dissect some plays, a little bit in the classroom and then out on the field to see if he can run because he was kind of banged up, right? They just wanted to see if he can run. Well, he gets to the facility, right? And he throws on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and he realizes he forgot his cleats. He's got no cleats, right? And he's asking, hey, can I get a pair of cleats? Do you have anything? He's like, the locker room's locked. He's like, the equipment manager's not gone. He's off. It's closed. It's after hours. This is on like a Sunday morning, right? And he's like, I call him, but I don't know where he is. He's like, but we're all here waiting for you now. He says he's looking through garbage cans. He's walking around the facility trying to see if someone threw their cleats out. Anything to find a size, whatever. I don't know what he said. He wore 12 and a half or something like that. And he's like, long story short, he's like, I ran the 3-cone drill in my Jordans and whatever he said he was wearing, my sneakers, and I didn't get a call back. He's like, I got back on the plane, I went home. They never called me back. He's like, I totally blew it. He's like, of all the things I needed, just was a pair of cleats. He's like,
that's what Kadarius Toney kept saying.
Yeah.
He had one cleat.
It kept falling off. Yeah.
It was just kind of funny to hear these guys being human. You know what I mean? He's like, here's Chase Blackburn scourging through garbage cans, hoping maybe one of these guys threw out a pair of cleats that just happened to fit him. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, no. He's like, I took 20 minutes to run around the facility checking garbage cans to find a pair of cleats. He's like, meanwhile, I ran it in my sneakers, and he's like, and it didn't. That's why I never became a Ram.
Nice. That's funny. That's funny.
We should wrap this up too.
Yeah, with that, I mean, we've been on for a while, guys. Thank you so much. As Craig said, for them, like, subscribe. For us, like, subscribe, comment, all that good shit, and we'll be back again soon. I am going to be on vacation briefly. I've got kids graduating. I have 3 kids graduating. 1 on Friday, 2 next week.
Wow.
So I'm going to be a little busy, but we are going to record some stuff ahead of time. So we'll catch you again real soon, and. Yeah, everybody have a great night.